the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's Ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Four up in Indianapolis. The women in Phoenix with their Final Four now set. We'll get to that a little bit too. And guests today include Amanda Christovich. We also today have Mr. Shoemaker, who's an independent basketball analyst. I've really enjoyed some of what he said the last few days. He will join us today. That is Zack Shoemaker. And also today we'll have John McClain, Off the Radar, and all of what we do at the end. So there we are with that. So today the NCAA released their officials, guys. And guess who's not on it, who has been to 7 and officiated, refereed in 7 Final Fours?
Our little headbutt homeboy, right?
Hurley-Ayers, who is not on the list. That doesn't mean you go every year. If you go 7 times, he's been officiating for probably close to 30 years or so, but he is not on it. So I saw this clip. Seth Greenberg from ESPN, who has joined this show, Craig and Paul, many times, explaining that moment between Dan Hurley and Hurley-Ayers after the Mullen shot that put UConn ahead.
Headbutt of the official.
First of all, when you talk about social media, if you're not going to take advice from someone, why would you listen to what they said on social media?
Fair.
Answer it to the question. But this situation right here, first of all, Hurley-Ayers is the best official in all of college basketball. He's a tremendous communicator. There isn't, and he reffed a ton of my games. There were games where he's put his arm around me, walked me back to my bench. There was times where he said, Seth, that's enough. But that situation right there, that is absolutely nothing. I talked to Roger today. He said, what are you talking about? He literally didn't know what I was talking about. He said, nothing happened. The ball went in. I was running back. They were celebrating. Danny leaned in, said something to me. I said something to him. It was absolutely nothing.
So you're saying that was coach fired up in his own way, in the moment, and
the official interacting with him, which is that guy is the best communicator in all of college basketball as an official, a guy you would want on every single one of your games. Home, road, favored, not favored. And then I spoke to Dan as well.
Yeah.
And Dan said he didn't understand what was going on. He has so much respect for Roger. He's never had a problem with him. Now, he's been walked back like we all have during the course of a game.
Yeah.
But that was social media trying to create something out of nothing because of Dan Hurley's allegedly reputation.
He's a fiery guy.
Yeah,
so the
look,
reputation precedes itself. I'm shocked you don't listen to everything social media says.
Well,
yeah.
Look, I coached
there
for
we are.
33
That's
years. If I
Seth
listened to
Greenberg
everything
on
everyone said about me,
the
I would be
situation.
under this table right now.
By the way, he makes his phone calls on a
and Hurley-Ayers. So Greenberg actually spoke with both of them. Your thoughts, guys?
I mean, look, if the official says he didn't know what was going on, or didn't know what happened, then I'm fine with that. It was just kind of a weird overall when it came to technical fouls that were not given out at the end of games. There's that precedent, but look, if he didn't feel it was technical foul worthy, then it wasn't. I mean, whether we think it was or not really doesn't matter because we didn't have the whistle and we weren't him.
At this point, I really don't care anymore about this, but I know it's a hot button of discussion for basketball fans who feel like there should have been a technical called there, feel like Dan Hurley crossed the line, and I'm sure it'll be positioned. And I already see Seth Greenberg trying to position it as, that they're out to get somebody. In this case, I guess they're out to get Dan Hurley, that evil, vague social media. I don't know why Seth Greenberg's trying to gaslight people on this little interview segment, though. Like, you're a very smart man. You're very good at your job. I don't know why you're trying to pretend like nothing happened and that it's all just social media trying to stir the pot. Now, I'm not one of those with a spoon in my hand trying to stir it, so I'm kind of just like, well, I can see where the official could have probably called a technical there. Given the stakes at the moment, I'm glad that he didn't, but I know that if I was on the other side of the coin, I'd be really pissed and wondering why he didn't call a technical there, which is why this story is still alive, because I'm sure there's a lot of Duke fans who are still pissed and feel like that should have been something. But don't tell us it was nothing. They literally go forehead to forehead after one of these massive moments in this game where all hell's breaking loose. And you can at least tell me like emotions got out of control and two guys who have a lot of respect for each other and are kind of quirky. That's how they expressed themselves in that moment, and it wasn't nefarious, and therefore he didn't feel the need to call a penalty there. Tell me that, and I'll be like, okay, but don't tell me like, what's social media talking about? Like, I know it's like, what is this? Like the news networks telling us, I know you see it, what's happening right in front of you, but why are you acting like what's happening right in front of you is what's happening right in front of you? It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, I can see it. So, I don't care enough to continue to wage this war on whether there should have been a penalty or not, or a whistle or not. But I feel like I'm being gaslit by Seth Greenberg for absolutely no reason. And I feel like you can explain it away without it being, oh, well, they're in UConn's pockets. It's like, yeah, Hurley-Ayers, maybe he felt like he was the one that initiated it to some degree, and therefore it would have been wrong for him to do that and then call a whistle, and then you really have another controversy on your hands. So I see where Duke fans or non-UConn fans are coming from. I can see where that was just like such a crazy-ass moment that nobody knew how to really contain themselves, and two dudes who are maybe a bit quirky, that's how they like exerted their energy in that moment. And it was actually a friendly thing as opposed to something wrong. But yeah, don't gaslight me and tell me nothing happened. I mean, it's very clearly on camera, two guys going forehead to forehead. So,
well, at least we got an explanation.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. But I don't know why people choose the no, you're not seeing what you're actually seeing route so often these days.
I didn't see it. Obviously, we're sitting there watching watching the game on TV, etc., and didn't really know anything about that till later in the day. I thought it was a couple of dudes that might have been at a bar in a big moment, and they're like, I used to do that. It's very bad about it. Headbutting. It wasn't that. It was just kind of like the excitement of the moment. It was probably something they shouldn't have done. It's over. UConn moves on. Ayers is not going to be refereeing though in Indianapolis at the Final Four.
I think that's what it was. I think it was two dudes who, in a crazy moment in both of their careers, saw something that they couldn't evoke or emote other than to do like caveman behavior, basically, or like buddy behavior. And I think that's all it was. I do think it was innocent, but don't gaslight me and try to this alleged reputation of Dan Hurley. Like, what are you talking? This alleged reputation. Yeah, like that's exactly right. So I don't know what Seth Greenberg's trying to accomplish with some of what he's saying there. But now I'm getting like probably sounding like I'm really into it, but I just don't like being gaslit. And he tried to do it twice in that segment. So two guys who were acting like everybody else in America, and other people were jumping over their couches or running and grabbing their nearest family member and swinging them around like a helicopter in joy. Yeah, that's explainable, but we saw what we saw. So the debate's whether it should have been called or not. They didn't call it, and we move on.
All right, so the Final Four.
I will say, though, it is weird that he's not – it does add gas to when he's not calling the next round, though. You're like, but why is he not doing that? So for the people who do have a bone to pick, that will certainly not alleviate their thoughts about it.
Well, also, you don't need to be celebrating with an official, and if you're an official, you don't need to be –
true.
The optics of it are terrible. No matter what you say, if you have to explain it away at all, then it's something that probably just shouldn't happen. And the best thing is that he's not doing the Final Four. Bottom line.
Well, he hasn't done it every year, but he's done a lot of them. When you do 7, then obviously you've done a lot of Final Fours, but that just happens to be maybe they already had that set before that situation, which of course ended the weekend. It was the last game. Maybe they already had the officials set. Now, of the 4 teams in the tournament for the Final Four in Indianapolis, first time since 2014. This is one of those unique little notes that John Fanta, great basketball analyst, 2014 was the last time the 4 schools in the Final Four were actually named after a state.
Okay.
Connecticut, Wisconsin, Florida, Kentucky in 14. This year, Arizona, Connecticut, Illinois, and Michigan. I mean, like if it would have been, for example, Tulsa or there's a lot of different schools. Yeah, Duke.
There's no state.
Duke,
it's Duke.
Yeah. So just a little weird nugget for the Final Four.
I would never have thought of that. I never would have cared to think of it.
But now you got it in your head.
And now I have it in my head thanks to John Fanta and you. So thank you.
Damn right. That's what we're here for. So here's the note about Michigan and Arizona. These are two 800-pound gorillas getting ready to launch themselves into a cage match. It is among the highest-rated games of all time in NCAA men's basketball history. When you take KenPom, which is, of course, the efficiency on offense and defense, 1999 Duke has had the highest number ever. And then 25 Duke last year had the second highest ever. And then right below that, numbers 26 Michigan and number 26 Arizona, the third and fourth highest KenPom efficiency of all time. And they're going to play each other on Saturday in the semifinal game.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, there's some big-time matchups coming up. I don't know how to digest all those things that you just said, quite frankly. But, yeah, there's a lot of, interesting stats and numbers that are going to just fuel this thing for the next few days. And there's 4 really good teams. That's what I do know. I'll default to the basketball experts out there on breaking them down. But I am very much looking forward to the Final Four. I think we got 4 excellent teams, state names or not, and 4 really solid, just talented basketball teams. So, yeah, we're going to see some incredible hoops action this weekend.
So now there's some coaching news, and this is something that came out. There was some discussion about it over the weekend, but Arizona State just hired Randy Bennett, and he's not in good health. He's struggling right now, and he's also released a statement about it. And when I saw this statement and I saw Mayo Clinic involved in it, it made me go, wow, this is not good at all. I'm in good hands as they continue to update his status. They hired an assistant coach to his staff over the weekend. Everything is under control, and I will be back at full strength very soon. So that's the great news. I'm in good hands. We feel good about the plan, and I'm incredibly appreciative of the care I've received from the team at the Mayo Clinic. So he's as good as it gets at the Mayo Clinic. Not 100% healthy right now, but it appears as if he will be able to turn the corner.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's been very odd to not really know what's going on, to be dealing with something to the point that you're not able to make your introductory press conference, and then to be dealing with something still days later that they have to then mention again of like, hey, it's going to be cool, but he's just dealing with something right now. And yeah, when you see the Mayo Clinic, that's not something that really triggers positive emotions when you're talking about some unnamed, unknown, vague thing that he could be dealing with. So yeah, I mean, your mind can go 1,000 different directions, and I just hope he's all right. But I mean, at the same time, it's also one of those things where you look at his age, and that was one of the things when he was hired. Okay, how can you look at this and you tell me all the positives, and those are easy, but what are maybe some of the drawbacks of this? And one of the maybe drawbacks, it depends on your viewpoint, is that he's in his 60s, so he's getting up there and he's getting older. And at the same time, there's a lot of coaches around college basketball right now that are in their 60s and thriving. Hell, some are approaching or in their 70s. So it's not like he can't go and have a 10-year career there in Tempe. But at his age and with this kind of vagueness, yeah, it does worry you quite a bit of, okay, what's going on here? And the fact that it's your introductory press conference that you had to miss. This wasn't like just something. This wasn't some 10 a.m. meeting with a booster at the football offices or the basketball offices that nobody's privy to or aware of, that if you miss it, no one will know otherwise. This is your introduction to the entire fan base. So I really hope everything's all right with Randy Bennett. It seems encouraging based on how they phrased everything, but yeah, it's a little bit scary that this has occurred, and the just sort of mystery of it, I guess, will linger until we get more information, but hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Yeah. So that's good. No, he just said, he goes, none of the momentum that we have is being lost. He's hired the former coach at Cal Baptist, who's very highly respected, and he'll continue to grind through this in the Mayo Clinic. When you have them having your back, that has to be something you feel great about.
It's just, he didn't say, hey, thanks to my doctor, Dr. Philip Abelman, for this. It wasn't that. So everybody gets concerned because you've got to go to the Mayo Clinic. It means it's, pretty, high up there of what health problem he had. But for everybody who's like, oh my gosh, he must be dying. Well, the Mayo Clinic treats things that, could be life-threatening, but then aren't, and cures them and moves on, because that's what they do. They're the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah,
so,
and incredible. Now, Kelvin Sampson is 70. And after they lost that game to Illinois, there were thoughts about, is he just like exhausted? Is he out of gas? No, he's coming back. My heat is still hot. I still burn for this coaching. I want another run at it. I want to chase it again. So Kelvin Sampson is going to come back. You always have wondered if had he won it, which he was on the verge of doing a year ago, and then this year knocked out into the Elite Eight round, if that might happen, because that would be a pretty good way to go out when you have been so good and not been able to win the national title. But it's great news. It's great for Houston, great for the Big 12, and I love watching him coach.
We need Kelvin Sampson back next year, and that's happening. We need Bill Self back next year. We don't need to, just run away from these great coaches in this league, all at once. So glad that Kelvin Sampson is back. I never once thought that he wouldn't be. I know that, there is thought about, okay, when you're 70, like when you're going to hang it up. And he was just so close last year. I think that I especially I think maybe it's a bit of my guilt on when he got fired at Indiana for text messages, and I'm on the radio being like, oh, Kelvin Sampson's dirty. And then you read what he did, and he's like, well, how many extra text messages did he send? Did he just break it up? Was he just learning how to text message? It's all pretty new. And then you find out that all the coaches like, this rule is really stupid and nobody can abide by it. It's impossible. So then you're like, well, that's why he got fired. Well, that's dumb. And then you think, well, okay, Indiana ran off. That's the best coach that they've had since they haven't had anybody as good as Kelvin Sampson. And so, yeah, I'm all a big, huge Kelvin Sampson fan. And I really wish that he would get that title so that his career could come full circle.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys who did things back in the day that you don't quite hold over them as much as you used to because the rules are different. Also, the fact that it was nearly 20 years ago. So I'm not really sitting here sweating Kelvin Sampson's 2006, 7, 8 infractions in 2026. I mean, that would be ridiculous, especially even without the backdrop of rules violations being different than what they were. To hold that over his head, if that's simply all that he did, would be just an axe to grind, much less the fact that the rules have changed so much. So, yeah, I don't even think of that really when I think of him at this point, much like I gloss over Pitino's issues or Calipari's issues or some of the others. I don't ignore them necessarily, but, yeah, they all had run-ins at one time or another, some that wouldn't be as big of a deal, some that still would be a big deal. And I think in Kelvin Sampson's case, a lot of it was recruiting violations that, yeah, now you go, all right, that's not so bad in hindsight. But regardless, again, nearly 20 years ago, he's had a hell of a career. They've been knocking on the door, and he is Houston basketball and has been for a little while now. And I'm glad that he's going to continue to be, because I know they've probably got some sort of a succession plan in place with his son, or I don't know how exactly that's going to work out and how much that's been outlined just yet. I know that I've seen plenty of people that seem to assume that'll be the case, but I'm not ready to bid adieu to him, and I do want to see him win a title before he hangs it up. So I'm glad that he'll be back for at least one more run and hopefully many more after that. I think he's great for Houston. I think he's great for college basketball and also great for the lineup of Big 12 coaches and teams that go at each other every year. So, yeah, that's great news. I wasn't really anticipating anything else. I wasn't even thinking we'd hear, but I guess at his point in his age, he probably has to come out now after every season and say, I will be back or I won't be back. So I'm glad that we've heard that. He's
one of those that when he does a press conference or an interview and he reflects on some things about life, et cetera, it's really, I love listening to him talk. But here's the thing. Think about this and how things have changed. He was forced to resign at Indiana. Paul, you mentioned that. Allegations of serious NCAA violations, which included sending text messages to recruits, something that from 2007 to 2013 was against NCAA rules. And he was then given a 5-year show cause penalty. And now, can you imagine if you were, and again, right after that, they changed the rule. But it was against the rules at the time.
And that's why I'm not like digging up his past skeletons. It's like you served a 5-year show cause.
5-year show cause.
You went and did your time, bro. Yeah. So I don't know why people are still trying to poke holes in this guy. I understand we want to dig up skeletons. We can do that for pretty much every coach in the country at this point. So yeah, that doesn't seem like nearly as big of a deal as it did at the time. He served his time. And I think his return to college basketball over the last decade has been more beneficial than anything else. And so I'm glad to see that he's going to be sticking around. He doesn't seem like a guy who's on his last leg just yet. And think maybe we get more than in a season, but I'll take what we can get for the time being.
And Rick Pitino, after a great run right into the Elite Eight before they were knocked out in that game with UConn, he has signed a contract extension and moves forward and continues to be at St. John's. There were thoughts about him because of his age, and what if he would have gone even deeper? Would it have changed some things about how he looked at what he's going to do moving forward? But that's from Amanda Christovich on her Twitter feed. We're thrilled that Coach Pitino has signed a new agreement, a deal that will keep him in Queens through the end of the decade. It reflects our strong confidence, leadership, vision, and commitment to our student athletes. Change the culture of the community. We want his presence to be felt on this campus for years to come, and look forward to more championships.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to stop. I mean, he's got some momentum going, and St. John's went from being at the pinnacle of college basketball and in the basketball mecca. I mean, heck, they play at MSG, all these other things, to just being an also-ran for so long. I mean, how long was it where you really thought about, oh man, St. John's is going to contend this year? It's been a long, long time, and they've been through a lot of different coaches to try to recapture that 70s and 80s and early 90s greatness that they had. And Rick Pitino is the dude who's doing it right now. And NIL, like, no offense to Rick Pitino, his coaching acumen is fantastic, but NIL is what's enabled St. John's to also get back, into relevance when it comes to the Big East, when it comes to college basketball and all that. And good for them.
They had not won a Big East title since 2000, and when he was hired in 2023, and now that's something that they're obviously in the middle of.
And talk about a guy with a closet full of skeletons. Yeah. I mean, it's not just impermissible phone calls, and I understand that some of this has already been adjudicated, and he's been found to not have been as involved as allegations represent or whatever. But yeah, go read Rick Pitino's violations page. And so again, it's kind of, I think, par for the course for a lot of coaches from the 2000s and 2010s before all the rules changed. They're more often than not probably got involved with something, especially if they were winning at a high level, whether it was getting into the dirt with Adidas or taking dudes to strip clubs or making too many phone calls or whatever it was. I'm glad that we don't deal with that as much. Now we just have like cousin Jimmy who's handling the negotiations through DMs on Twitter or something. But yeah, Pitino, I think, despite that, despite whatever like blemish Sampson might have had, just at the core, they're great basketball coaches. They're just great basketball coaches. I think they're great characters for college basketball. And what I mean by that is just kind of interesting guys to root against or to root for that are unique and have unique personalities and backgrounds.
There you go.
Unique
personalities.
Make it interesting rather than being just some dude in a suit. So yeah, Pitino evokes an emotion one way or the other when you see him on the sideline up against your team. And, either way, if you're a fan of his or you're somebody who maybe thinks he's a bit slimy, then regardless, you're going to be facing one hell of a coach opposite you for the next 2.5 hours. And so I love that St. John's was involved as they have been and were this year. And I think it's a great thing when a school like that, who loves basketball as much as they do in that area, I think it's awesome to have a little bit of a change of pace from Florida, Iowa State, Georgia, Texas Tech, like whoever. Yeah, it's good to see some of those basketball schools making some noise in March, and St. John's was able to do a little bit of that. So good to know that he'll also be returning. That's great news for college basketball.
No, you use the word personality. There's a certain pizzazz to them, different type of passion. Sometimes you can be just like really very excitable, and sometimes it's just kind of like you're just suave in a way as you watch your team play. He's got a little bit of that. When they won that game at the buzzer in the tournament, he just kind of tucked his tie into his jacket, walked, shook hands, and then, of course, was thrilled as he could possibly be.
Yeah, he's a cool, calm, collected kind of gangster in a way. The nice suits and the Italian heritage, it's easy to kind of pocket him as the suave East Coast guy, and he definitely leans into that and kind of has that personality as opposed to like Kelvin Sampson, who's just like, I don't even know how you describe Kelvin Sampson. Just a ball coach in his J's.
He looks like my uncle.
In his Jordan gear, and just coaching it up. And then you've got guys like Hurley, and you've got guys like Golden, and so on and
Cronin.
so forth. Yeah. So there's a lot of different types of unique personalities. Pitino is one of my favorites, though, as far as that goes. Like, if you're telling me to set the movie scene, make the most Hollywood drama that you can, Rick Pitino is coaching one of the teams on screen. Like that would Calipari's probably coaching the other, or maybe Dan Hurley. I don't know. But those guys have been institutions, or Pitino, well, it's Sampson as well, outside of the show cause, have been institutions in college basketball for basically my entire life at this point. They're going to be hanging around makes me feel a little less older.
He was born in New York. Tell me, other than his first couple of years where he was at Hawaii as an assistant interim head coach in the mid-'70s, what's the furthest west Rick Pitino in the United States has coached?
Since, other than Hawaii.
Kentucky?
I just said Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah, other than Hawaii, you said. Okay. Yeah. I was just clarifying.
What'd you say, Craig?
Kentucky?
Well, Louisville and also Kentucky. Yep.
Yeah.
Right there next to each other, Lexington and Louisville. Boston, Syracuse, Providence,
Siena,
Iona,
or Iona,
St. John's, and then, of course, a few times overseas. And then in the NBA, it's the Knicks and the Celtics. So he is East Coast and the Northeast Coast in basketball. But Kentucky and Louisville also, and he was at Kentucky 8 years, Louisville for 16 or 17 years. So then there's Alvin Brooks III. There are now 3 former Scott Drew assistant coaches. Brooks went to Kentucky. Mark Pope, of course, didn't work out there. He's still there, but he's changing up his staff. Alvin Brooks is now not a part of Kentucky. Matt Driscoll took over for Jerome Tang at Kansas State. Driscoll used to be at Northern Florida. Those two are looking for a job too. And you just wonder where they end up. And the first thing you think, well, they're going to be a reunion. I don't know that. Haven't even asked, honestly. But Alvin Brooks, great guy, hell of a recruiter now. This is a guy that got some of those dudes that are now in the NBA. And now he is looking for a job.
I didn't even ask. I thought about asking Scott last week, but I still thought it was too soon to even get into that. Plus, he just hired a lot of these new guys. Scott is not I can't think of an assistant he's fired. They've all just gone on. So to say, hey, these guys are coming back would mean that somebody has to leave. And that's not really the Drew MO when it comes to assistant coaches. Although I would say if you can get Alvin Brooks and Jerome Tang and Matt Driscoll back on the staff together, I would not sneeze at that if I was a Baylor fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was a Baylor fan, I'd be absolutely dreaming of that. I'd also be, I think, entirely delusional to think that that's going to happen. I could see getting one of those guys, maybe 2 of those guys back. I'm very wary of, let's just get the band back together and it'll be like old times. I know we broke up last time, but no, this time it'll be different. And they didn't break up. They went off to go do opportunities of their own. And so that's understandable. But now that they've had a little taste of that, do they not want to keep doing that? Or do they want to come back under the Scott Drew tree? And I don't know. I can't answer that for those guys. I don't know what their line of thinking is. But Alvin Brooks got a great opportunity and a lot of money, I think, to go coach at Kentucky. That was in the midst of the Scott Drew pursuit, right? And then they didn't get Drew, but they got Brooks. And were able to get his recruiting prowess and whatever else it is that Mark Pope liked about Alvin Brooks, but only last a couple years. You can understand because Kentucky's not where they're supposed to be under Mark Pope. They took a bit of a step back, I would say, this year. And he doesn't have a lot of room before that next step back that got him teetering on the ledge of being fired. So they had to make some changes there. And I don't know enough about Brooks's involvement and how he was viewed or anything like that to make any sort of a declaration of, well, yeah, totally. I can get why I just think Kentucky had to make some changes because they are feeling the pressure that if Mark Pope doesn't win this next year, then he's probably gone.
Offensive and defensive coordinators if you're a head coach.
That's how I view this. And who knows, maybe he's got another opportunity already elsewhere. He knows a lot of people at this point in his career, so he'll be fine just like the rest of them. I'm not fond of let's just get everybody back together and pretend it's 2021 all over again. But if one of those guys wants to come back, I'm sure Scott Drew would be more than happy to welcome them. If a couple of them do, then I'm sure he'd be thrilled by that. He's already got assistant coaches, however, on staff. So you can't just have 20 guys sitting on your bench there. But it's food for thought, and good luck to Alvin Brooks, regardless of where it takes him.
Go ahead.
I would say if you're going to get, if any of them come back, likely it would just be one guy. Like you might get one of them back if you wanted one of them back. But all 3 aren't coming at the same time. Like that's wholly unrealistic.
Maybe if in fact somebody leaves the Texas Tech staff and Grant McCaslin needs somebody, he's got a Paul Mills and what he's doing. By the way, Alvin Brooks recruited Davion Mitchell, who's a transfer from Auburn. Jeremy Sohan, Keontae George, and Jacoby Walter. Those are guys that he had a very close attachment to when he recruited them. All of them, of course, ended up being a part of the NBA draft along with some others too. So he does have that. It did not work at Kentucky, and Mark Pope's trying to rejuvenate his group right now. The Big Ten has 2 of the Final Four, right? The Big Ten will send at least 2 teams to the Final Four. This is even before the last games on Sunday, but there are only 4 conferences ever to send half of the field to the Final Four. The 2009 Big East, the 2016 ACC, and the 2025 last year when Florida won it with the SEC, and now the Big Ten with the 2 teams they have with both Michigan and Illinois in the Final Four.
That's an interesting stat. I mean, I hadn't really pondered how often that's happened or not, but I would have thought it would have happened a bit more than 4 times. And again, we haven't had giant conferences like we do now for as long as we have. So a lot of these conferences now have 4, 6, 8 more teams than they had at some point 20 years ago. So yeah, you have much better odds for something like that to occur. I would have thought, again, it probably would have happened a bit more often, but that's cool. Only matters if they win it, though. It only matters if one of those teams wins it. If neither Michigan or Illinois win, then who gives a damn about having half the Final Four? That's the thing. It's fun to talk about now, though, before the games, and that's certainly something to, if you get into that sort of thing, pump your chest about or wave the Big Ten flag or whatever they choose to do. That's something I would expect Brett Yormark or Greg Sankey or Jim Phillips to be posting all over social media as well, that you have half the field. So we'll see if they can take advantage of it. But the Big Ten's really riding high right now, and they've got everything rolling in football. They've got, I think, things obviously rolling pretty well in basketball. And I do think that you're starting to see some of the media narrative change, and some of the SEC super soakers out there are suddenly going, hey, this Big Ten, wow, look at this Big Ten over there. It's like, yeah, there's other leagues that exist. And I think the fact that you're starting to see people maybe thaw out to the idea of, oh, wow, this one league doesn't run everything. It's been a slow process, and it's taken 2 or 3 years of results. Now, is that any better than the SEC having done it? It's just like the SEC, but the northern version and the western version. So it's all the same enemy almost for the Big 12 or the ACC or the Pac or whoever. It's pretty much the same thing, other than I think you worry less about the Big Ten just trying to totally turn the sport on its head versus Greg Sankey. And I don't know if that's fair or not, because if anybody's more inclined to do something like that, it would actually be the Big Ten commissioner versus the SEC commissioner, because the Big Ten guy is TV guy and event guy and things like that. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds, but I think it's just refreshing for people to see somebody else being like front and center, and it not being all about SEC all the time. So it's just something, a nice change of pace.
Well, here's the thing that, about propaganda is that it's only strong enough to hold up as long as the thing it's propagandizing works. So as long as you can say, hey, we're the best league, we do this, it just means more and all that, it's great. And then when it doesn't, you have to come up with a new strategy. And I think that sometimes because you've just spoon-fed for so long, it just means more, it just means more, it just means more. It's better here, it's better. Then when a couple years when it's not to say that it couldn't be again, you really don't know how to react to it.
But don't we do too much recency bias on everything?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
so if you go a couple of years and don't win it, but
it's not a big deal. So I think that's part of it, is that there's so many people who have just, and this happens with advertising, with politics, with sports, with everything. If you're just fed the same stuff over and over and over and over again, you start to believe some of it without questioning it. And then when you are forced to question it, it's hard for you to deal with it. So, when it comes to the SEC versus Big Ten, I'm sure there's a lot of, like you said, SEC super soakers out there, Craig, that are just having a hard time reconciling this and trying to figure out which conspiracy theory they can red string it to as to why the Big Ten is better now. Look, the Big Ten has a bunch of money. They're spending it effectively, and it's working right now. But guess what about sports? It's always cyclical. Eventually, they're going to have coaches that aren't as good. They're going to make some bad hires, and then the pendulum will swing in another direction. So
coaches move on, things change. Your quarterback that was great next year's not, and yeah, it's not a guarantee.
Okay, the good booster dies.
Yeah,
his kids aren't involved in it. They just kind of send a smaller check every year for the tax write-off, and you don't have somebody that's invested in it. I would maybe call this the T. Boone Pickens rule. Like all those things, all of a sudden you don't have as much money. You keep a coach too long who won't retire because you don't really know how to handle, the off ramp there. There's a million things that can happen, in all these sports. And it can happen at the same time in a conference. And when you have a conference that, like the Big Ten and SEC, are in this constant pissing match about who's bigger and who's better and who should be running things. Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten in this battle right now has kind of fortified their defenses a little bit better, but that doesn't mean the SEC is not going to come up with a new plan, or somebody else could come out of the woodwork and make it happen. But that's probably going to take a long, long time.
Well, I just saw this note from Chris Hummer from CBS Sports. You're talking about that. Just popped up on my timeline. Of the teams, of the conferences that lose players to the transfer portal, this is why it won't change much for the Big Ten and the SEC, at least not anytime soon. How often do first or second team all-conference players transfer? G6 all-conference players transfer 70.5% of the time. ACC and Big 12, 43.2%. Big 10 and SEC, 2.6%. They're losing players, but they're not losing many. And then they're getting the other ones from the other schools and other conferences that were very, very successful.
I think a bigger story would be if neither one of them were winning at the rate that they are, because they have all the advantages. And then you take into account what they're trying to push as of last week with the let's rip the cap off, the house settlement, and the separate pool of money will count for retaining players. And everybody's like, oh, that's a good idea. And then you realize, oh, how can we make that 2.6% like 1.3%? Well, we get to have our cake and eat it too. And so therefore we get to already take all the extra money that we have, and we get to use that as we already were. But now we can also use it to pay another amount that certainly, if we're already this far ahead in this one category, imagine if now we get two pots and the other schools are having to scramble to try to fill both of those pots all of a sudden. It just, I think, advances your lead even that much further. So I wasn't surprised at all to see a league, whether it had been the SEC or the Big Ten, to suggest, yeah, let's have no caps and let's be able to make it to where you can pay this amount and that amount and that and the other. Yeah, that would work out really well for them, because having the most money is working out really, really well right now. They also have the best teams across the board, and that's by strategy. They pretty much finished that off the last couple years with all of the additions they made. And I think in the next 3 or 4 years, we could see them finally finish that off completely by going and taking the remaining schools that have some oomph to them, like a Miami or Florida State or Clemson or whoever's been so widely talked about. So, yeah, they've gobbled up a lot of territory. They've got a lot of money, and you would expect them to be on top. But it is interesting, though, that it was the SEC for 20 plus years. I mean, that's the thing. We're not talking about like this has been like, oh man, it's been really annoying these last couple of years. So like, no, it's been like 20 years of them winning so consistently that I'm not even annoyed by it as though it's not justified. It's just that, like, damn, I just want to see something different. And now we are seeing something different, but I don't know that in the long run it's that much better, because it's just the opposite side of the same coin.
And one thing, we got a break. Amanda's next, Christovich, but you're an Oklahoma fan. You're an SEC guy. You obviously want to see them keep winning, but you sometimes want to maybe see some change or others join the party.
I'm not part of the you will never hear me do the SEC chant ever. I will never do that. I've never been big on that conference pride thing when the SEC was doing it. And I know realignments turned that into more of a broad thing where now people are as proud of their conferences as ever before. You see it with the Big 12. Like, I see people on videos all the time playing with the emotions of Big 12 fans of like, is today the day? Is today the day? You all die and fall off the cliff? Or is like, so they bonded through trauma basically, and now they're scared to death to like not be bonded because they've got to stick together, right? So it's created all of this conference pride that's just flush across the country now because everybody's fighting for their team, which is really unique and different than when for 20 years it was just this one league shouted their name and everybody else is like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is this about? And then the moment they went and grabbed Texas and Oklahoma, that's when I think everybody's fences built up, and you're like, all right, now everybody's getting protective of.
It all started when A&M in Missouri.
Well, yeah, that really got the ball rolling.
And then, of course, A&M has the Heisman Trophy freshman or first year for Johnny Manziel, and that kind of kicked it into overdrive. When we come back, Amanda Christovich was at that game between UConn and Duke, and there's a freeze frame of her as the ball is midway in the air from Mullins to the hoop, to the basket. We'll discuss her memories and what was that like and more in the Final Four coming up in Indianapolis. This is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. There's nothing more meaningful than making yourself feel better when it comes to your body. And how many times and how long have you had aches and pains, whether it's several joints or if there's one? For example, tennis elbow, or your knee aches, or your ankle, or for me, my hip. I went to visit QC Kinetics, got a consultation with them back in September. I've been having treatment from them ever since. And what was a daily nagging, sore, achy, just frustrating feeling is gone. And I am active, more active. Doesn't mean I'm crazy, but I now have run 4 times a mile over the last couple of weeks after not running at all for almost 5 years since COVID. If you have consistent joint pain, if you have pain that doesn't go away, if you've even had steroid injections to kick the can down the road, and then all of a sudden now someone's talking about surgery, whoa, stop, listen to me. Listen to what QC Kinetics can bring to you. Get a free consultation with them. There are the numbers in Dallas and Houston at 972-972-8610 and Houston 713-913-5285. If you're at the end of your rope, if you're frustrated, you have no other options, QCkinetics.com.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients that have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. Get a 2023 Rogue Buick Enclave for $301 per month, or get a 2022 Chevy Silverado for only $446 per month, or a 2023 Volkswagen Jetta for $236 per month. All pre-owned cars and trucks on the lot are tagged with big anniversary savings. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Car, we give you more. Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
.365 Sports here as we head towards the last part of the 3 o'clock hour. Amanda Christovich joins us, Front Office Sports, and she was at the famous game, the UConn game against Duke. In fact, I'm going to start with this, Amanda. Here is the freeze frame. You put this up on your feed as Mullins in the shot in midair, down 2, and UConn trying to figure out, and look at, there's Amanda right there sitting down on press row, and like, oh, so she joins us live on 365 Sports. Amanda, what was that moment like to be a part of it?
Amanda, you got us?
Yes, I do. Now I do.
There you go. So what was that like, that freeze frame? You put it up on your feed from CBS Sports as you sat there and saw that thing go in.
Okay. I actually like blacked out when the shot like went in, which is like what you saw me reacting to. So I actually like don't even like remember. It's like the shot went in. It's like I saw, and I was on that side, that the side that UConn was shooting for that half. So it was like 5 feet in front of me, basically like Braylon Mullins, shot goes up and I'm like, oh, and then it goes in, you know, you hear the swish, you see it, and I like blacked out. Like I felt like my body like moving. But yeah, we couldn't believe it. I know that's not the most unbelievable analysis for you, but it was truly the most incredible moment. And then obviously the crowd just like goes completely wild. It was mostly a Duke crowd, but like the UConn fans were deafening in that moment. And then I like snapped back into reality, and I was like trying to like take pictures of the players like running off the court and celebrating. And then I was like, well, I guess I have to delete 800 words that I just wrote.
Yeah. You had the lead ready, didn't you? That's what you're supposed to do.
Well, I had a whole story about Duke winning. Because, you know, I was talking to my friend sitting next to me at the Wall Street Journal, who's also a great reporter, Robert O'Connell. And we were both like, okay, well, I guess we'll have the whole second half to like write that Duke is going to win. Like we both kind of were like, maybe like we expected UConn to at least put up a showing. And, you know, you guys were talking about conferences earlier. Like I'm a huge Big East girl. So I was like, maybe I'm just biased that I think UConn might be able to win. But then obviously by halftime, we were like, all right, guess I better start writing my Duke story. And yeah, by the time they got to that point, I was obviously watching, sort of live tweeting, okay, now they're down to 9, now they're down to 7, now they're back up to 10, now they're down to 7 again, now they're down to 5. But I'm like writing this story as if Duke is going to win so that I can send the story in right when the game ends. So I had gotten to like 800 words at that point, and yeah, deleted every single one of them.
Amanda, what do you think that this Final Four says of anything about the future of this tournament, where the lowest seed we have in is a 3, the lowest seed that we had in the Elite 8 was a 6? Is this concerning to the mid-major schools?
It's really tough to say. I think it's been obviously the talk of the tournament is about the future of mid-majors and conferences outside of the Power Four and the Big East, because in basketball, the Big East is considered a quote unquote power conference adjacent. You know, I think it has become demonstrably more difficult as a Cinderella, because with players being able to enter the transfer portal, you have an opportunity every single year, if you can get some sort of look by a better, by a coach at a more well-resourced school. If anybody notices you, you could be gone from your mid-major after a year, before they even get to the tournament. So I think that is making it very difficult. I also, but I'm not sure that we're at a point where there's obviously no upsets. I mean, there have been plenty of upsets. And we've written about, there were even conversations about, like, are the blue bloods dead, or maybe if they're not dead, does it not matter as much if you're a blue blood, if you are a school that can somehow get enough resources to put together a good roster. So I think it's concerning for the mid-majors, but I don't think that this means that we're never going to have upsets in the tournament. I think there's definitely going to be like a question. Yeah, I think there's an existential crisis among the mid-majors specifically. But, again, like, we did see a 9 seed make it to the Sweet 16. So I don't think that the concept of an upset is dead at all.
Amanda, Big Ten's got 2 of the Final 4, had like half of the Elite 8. We were talking earlier about how it's just kind of reflecting that it was the SEC sort of dominating for so long, and just kind of the main discussion about college sports. Now, it's also just the other side of the coin, because they have all the money and all the other side of the parts the SEC doesn't have. But is it just the natural part of time changes and things change, or do you think there's something more to the Big Ten seemingly having as much success as they are right now?
I definitely think that Big Ten schools have completely embraced this new era in a way that maybe some of the SEC schools didn't think they would have to, right? Because again, this concept of a blue blood or a big brand doesn't matter as much anymore. I would also say we're only in, are we second year or third year of the Big Ten's new TV contract? So there's an escalator there in terms of revenue, but the Big Ten media package far surpasses that of the SEC. The SEC is the most underpaid conference right now in terms of media rights. So I think that's a factor. But you also have to remember that a Big Ten school has not won a men's basketball national championship since 2000, 26 years. I looked that up the other day. So it's like the Big Ten sort of quietly ended up having some dominance in this tournament. We'll see if one or both of their programs can make it to the Final Four, the national championship game. But I think it really does say something. I mean, how much does it matter if you can't get a team in the championship in basketball? However, in football, obviously, they have been dominating over the past few years. So, if they can take the men's basketball crown too, I think that's going to be a big leg up for them in men's basketball, especially with this like dueling war they have with the SEC. But I really think a lot of people are looking at this and going, by and large, the Big Ten is like winning the NIL revenue sharing era for now.
Yeah, like the arms race right now is on their side. You were writing that story about Duke. Mm-hmm. It has now been 11 years since they played at a championship game. I don't know how much of this was a part of your story. They've had 36 5-stars during that time, Amanda, more than any other program. It's amazing that the Duke stretch has been that long. It's not easy to win it all. It's not easy to get to the Final Four, but your thoughts about how they're feeling this week?
Well, and just being so close many times. Like, I'll tell you, I was actually a senior in college, the Zion Williamson year. And I was actually a student volunteer because Georgetown at Capital One Arena in DC hosted that regional, and I volunteered to help put it on. And so I remember being there and watching that Duke Zion team lose and get upset. And all, several, 7-8 years later, it happens again in the same arena. And I think just to be so close so many times, maybe the freshman thing didn't matter as much in the earlier years before NIL, but and really before the unrestricted transfer portal of 2 years ago. But I really feel like I have come to this conclusion that 5-star freshmen just aren't going to do it. I mean, you can have all the talent in the world. Cam Boozer and his twin Caden were so talented, but they didn't have, and Cameron also is lauded for his basketball IQ. But for some reason, and the same thing happened with Duke's program last year with the Final Four, it just felt like it wasn't talent that they were lacking. It was experience. It was ability to handle the pressure. And like that just comes with time, and it comes with age, and it comes with experience. And I really feel like every time I write about a program that has a lot of older players, they go further than you expect them to. And when I write about a program with younger players, usually do, because they're one of the only ones who's still kind of doing that. Like, it doesn't matter if they're 5-star. They just don't have the experience. Now, maybe I'll be eating my words because Arizona is a big freshman forward team as well, right? So we'll have to see how they fare. But that just seems to be the intangible thing that these Duke programs are missing, is the experience.
Amanda, there is a lot of Capitol Hill news, which is your beat coming out. Committees. Tommy Tuberville is trying to fix the transfer portal, which I find, for a guy who once left a recruiting dinner to take another job, just juicy as hell. Yeah, and hilarious.
Yeah.
And his bill is never going to pass. The SCORE Act, I don't think, is ever going to pass either. They keep saying they need both parties to get in on it, but they haven't written it in a way that even the Republicans, I think, they wouldn't get all of the ones that they wanted there. Is all of this that's going on in Washington right now more window dressing because it is noise to maybe quiet down some of the other things that are going on in the world?
Yeah, I definitely think at this point, for the vast majority, I mean, look, there are some lawmakers who have been really heavily invested in this issue for, I would say at least 3 or 4 years. I would say, Senators Richard Blumenthal, Cory Booker kind of like has dropped off. On the Republican side, Senator Ted Cruz. On the House side, Representative Lori Tran. There are a select few who have really been interested and involved in trying to legislate college sports or not legislate. Even Chris Murphy, for like the better part of 2 or 3 years, they've been in this conversation. But I was actually talking to a source, because yes, I was on Capitol Hill before the East Regional in DC on Thursday. And like, it's very new to the vast majority of federal lawmakers, this issue, and not super high on their priority list. But they do all recognize that if they can get a soundbite about college sports, that could be good for their campaign with the midterms coming up. I was very frustrated on Capitol Hill personally on Thursday because I felt like I was sitting in a hearing about college sports and I was hearing the same things over and over and over again. And with new lawmakers who are coming into this issue for the first time saying the same things that the lawmakers who came in 3 years ago were saying. And it does not seem like there has been any progress. It does not seem like there has been any movement. At this point, I'm now being told SCORE Act is like, I'm not sure if it's dead or if there's been yet another pause. It was supposed to be finally introduced in April. Now I'm not sure that's happening. That I just found that out today. Like, I just feel like there's no meaningful movement towards a bill that is actually going to pass the filibuster in the Senate. And that's, you need 60 votes in the Senate. That's what matters. Like, you can pass anything narrowly in the House. I mean, they can't even pass the SCORE Act in the House. That's another story. But it's like, if they could, they still couldn't pass it in the Senate. And it's going to take a long time to get a bill where they can. So I just feel like, I said to my editors, like, I'm not even sure I want to keep covering these hearings. Like, obviously, we're going to be covering what's going on Capitol Hill, but the hearings themselves, it's just a whole lot of the same stuff. You know, that's that they've been same stuff, different day. You can insert that other word. And I just don't know if or when we're going to see any meaningful progress.
Yeah, we feel like that, and we're just reading it or watching it or at least keeping up with it. And my God, you're sitting in on it. You deserve like bonus pay right there.
We had Jamie Pollard on the show right after the Trump forum, and he was there. And I asked him why the SCORE Act and not the Saving College Sports Act. Why is that one more popular? And he flat out, one of the most honest guys in the world anyway, said, why? I just don't really know that much about the Saving College Sports Act, which tells me that the powers above Jamie Pollard and the other athletic directors have pretty much told them that this is the one that's going to do it. And they've kind of shelved, like, please don't read about that one. That one.
Well, it's also the one that's most favorable to them.
Yeah, it's the most favorable to them. The Saving College Sports Act, most of them haven't even bothered to read it and find out what it's about, even though that's the one that honestly, if it got into committees and all that stuff, would be way more likely to pass.
I mean, I don't even know that anything would pass at this point. Like, you know, I think the SCORE Act is very much an NCAA wish list. It's good for them. And the way I always describe it is setting aside your personal feelings, right? Like, this is just my analysis. It's not my opinion. What the NCAA is doing is not legal. Judges have told us this all the way up to the Supreme Court. They're the only industry in America that has a labor force in a multi-billion-dollar business where they're not paying their labor force, or they weren't paying their labor force, and they're not classifying them as employees, whether, you know, whether they're independent contractors or full-time, whatever. They're not classifying them as any sort of employees. And yet they want to set price fixing. They want to set restrictions on compensation, on movement, on ability to generate more compensation. That's not legal anywhere else in America. That's why in the pros you have collective bargaining. And so because what the NCAA is doing is not legal, and they refuse to follow the path of the pro leagues to make these restrictions legal, which is collective bargaining, they're asking Congress to make what they're doing legal. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what the SCORE Act is. That's what the SCORE Act is.
Yeah.
And predictably, you can, you know, Republicans have been more amenable to the concerns of the NCAA than Democrats, I would say. But giving an antitrust exemption to anybody is not, it's not a conservative value. Conservatives are the free market party. It's very hard to sell to conservatives the idea that you should be giving an antitrust exemption to anybody, let alone a serial antitrust violator like the NCAA. So I think the rank and file Republican is going, why am I departing from my general ideology just to give the NCAA what it wants? This doesn't make sense to me, right? These people who are just coming in now being asked, are you going to vote for this on the floor? And it seems like their answer to that is no.
Well, there you go. And they'll go back into meetings, committees, et cetera. Amanda, I know you got to go. A lot of busy trip. You got to turn around and go to Indianapolis, which I love that city for a tournament or for anything. So enjoy the travel, get some rest, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And if anyone has a hookup at St. Elmo's Steakhouse, I can't get a reservation. So somebody, if anybody happens to know a manager there, let me know because it's all booked.
Okay. I have somebody that I know, but I'm not sure that they remember me from when I was there in 21. But I do have a business card. I have one in my desk. I'll see if I can see what happens. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Amanda Christovich, Front Office Sports, Indianapolis, St. Elmo's, the great steakhouse and shrimp cocktail, and that cocktail sauce that burns your nose.
So I think we're going to be talking you and I quite a bit about legal stuff moving forward. Just I feel like it's going to be an off-season rife with that. And I wanted to put this out there. I think Paul sent this the other day or something, but think about the SCORE Act and the SAFE Act. How much is the SCORE Act favoring the schools? Let me just give you a rundown. When it comes to NIL, the SCORE Act, which is the NCAA's desire, a federal standard, guess who gets more control? The institutions. On employment status, prohibits athletes from being classified as employees. On antitrust protections, provides antitrust shields for, you guessed it, the NCAA and all of its conferences. On media rights, It does not amend the Sports Broadcasting Act as Cody Campbell is seeking to do. It favors what's already in place. Imagine that. Health and safety, it offers limited health benefits. Scholarships, no long-term guarantees. Transfer rules, oh, well, we do want to control that. So now we get control over eligibility and transfers. Oversight and enforcement, guess who's still in charge? The NCAA and the new CSC. Revenue sharing, the NCAA gets to modify revenue sharing metrics. So can you guess why the NCAA favors that act? Because it basically keeps their criminal enterprise running exactly as is with a few modifications here and there. And I say criminal enterprise, and I don't mean it that strongly, actually. But the way they're trying to muscle this as though it's some solution when all it is just them finding a way to try to just pinpoint the one way they can still have all the things that they want and all of the control and all the power and all the decision-making and the influence over the athletes and all of that. They want to have what they've always had, and that is one way to try to keep it as close as you can, is to basically outline on every point that you still control it exactly as you did, basically.
Well, and they're conciliate. They're, you know, the consolation they're making is like, well, we're giving them money now,
right?
Like they get money, and you know, money is only part of this, you know, because again, if you're setting eligibility rules, there are things that are finite, just like in the NFL. And the NFL players, retired players, had to fight forever to get benefits for injuries that happened during the game and all that. So that they don't want to, the NCAA is already saying, like, we don't want that because there's way more of these people than there are professional athletes.
So let's compare that to the Saving College Sports or the SAFE Act, which is what Cody Campbell's trying to do. And the more you dig into it and you realize there are major differences between these two things, you understand the political sides of this. But you also understand why Cody Campbell's not that popular with conference commissioners, that they don't want him to have say and to be able to influence things. So the SAFE Act, federal standard for NIL rights, athlete friendly, versus the SCORE Act, which is federal standard, more institutional control. Employment status, SAFE Act, Saving College Sports, they don't have an opinion that they've issued on athlete employment yet. Probably something they're being very careful about how they go about doing that. Whereas the SCORE Act, Team NCAA, absolutely prohibits employee status. Antitrust protections, I mentioned the NCAA's side, they provide antitrust shields for the NCAA and the conferences specifically, whereas there are no broad exemptions for antitrust under the SAFE Act. Media rights, this is, of course, where it probably got most controversial. Cody Campbell would like to see basically the conferences all come together and sell their rights as one, and it would benefit everybody, and everybody in his idea and his suggestion would make more money, although a lot of the athletic directors and presidents have pushed back on exactly that. But it would allow everybody to pool all of their money to benefit everyone, whereas the NCAA side does not like that, and they want the existing way that it is. Health and safety, I mentioned the NCAA, limited health benefits, 2 years of coverage. The Saving College Sports, strong protections, including post-eligibility coverage. No long-term scholarship guarantees versus 10-year guarantees. NCAA control maintained over eligibility and transfers versus more flexibility, allowing 2 transfers plus the ability to return if you don't get drafted. Oversight and enforcement provided by the NCAA and the College Sports Commission versus the Federal Trade Commission and state attorney generals. So that's where you get politics even more heavily involved. And then the revenue sharing, allowing the NCAA to modify revenue sharing metrics versus preserving 22% cap from the House versus NCAA settlement. So you can see where they differ quite a bit. And the easiest way to just figure out which one you're talking about, the SCORE Act is a total home run for the NCAA because they get everything that they want. Whereas the SAFE Act would be the safe route where you give a lot, but in return, you would seemingly answer a lot of the legal questions that you keep running into because you're providing long-term coverage, you're providing long-term scholarships, you're providing all of these things. And so I just, it's the same dudes that have been in charge that don't want to not be in charge, who are doing everything they can to remain in charge exactly the way they always have been. I mean, that right there outlines it so clearly. They're not trying to give a single effing inch in any shape or form.
That's why I said that to you guys. You could see how
they're not trying to give anything. back.
Well,
at
they
all.
never have wanted to give anything, so they're going to change.
But then they're going to turn around and be like, we can't afford women's gymnastics.
Yeah.
Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you can.
Of
You can
course they
always do
can.
it. Yeah,
They don't
you
want
can.
to.
They don't want to. They're trying to find the excuse. Steve Patterson was the AD at Texas a few years ago and kind of said the quiet part out loud. He got fired very loudly.
He was like 10 years ahead of his time,
Yeah,
honestly.
but he outset, like, he took money that was for a new tennis facility that a very wealthy former Texas tennis playing alum gave him and used it for something else, and then kind of got called out on that. Not kind of, got called out on it. And he said, look, I see tennis and women's sports, they're just checks on a balance sheet to me. They're just red marks on the balance sheet. And so that created a fervor, but he said out loud what many people think of, how can we get rid of these? Well, let's find a way to blame everybody else for wanting equality in pay and wanting
familiar.
opportunity. So let's find a way to blame everybody else. Be like, oh, well, the players want to get paid. We can't do anything about it anymore. We're going to have to cut things.
It's the other side's fault.
As opposed to getting creative with it. And what the SAFE Act, the Saving College Sports that Cody Campbell is, had proposed, is not, especially given his political alignment, is not really in line with that party. It's more very middle of the road, and it's very, okay, you can keep having these problems, pass the SCORE Act if you want, but you're going to wind up back in court. Just because Congress passes a law doesn't mean somebody can sue it and get it in trouble in court and have to go back to the drawing board. It's happened thousands of times in the history of our country. So don't set up that possibility. Get as close as you can to never getting sued as you can get, and then go from there.
How about finding some lawyers that are maybe better and more knowledgeable, so you won't get sued?
The lawyers can't change the rules to the way they want them, though.
Yeah,
They
but
just
can't
just want the money.
But why can't they just, guys? You're gonna lose this again.
They probably do.
They don't care.
Yeah,
that's what the whole thing is. They're going to keep fighting it until they can't fight anymore. They don't care how many times they lose, as long as they keep suing and it keeps extending their little reign of control.
So all the money they're trying to save and power, all the money that they could save, they're spending on legal.
They
bills.
think it's less than what they think this is a loss that is worth it to what they'll save in the future.
I don't mean this.
It's the same way that insurance companies work, in that insurance companies deny claims all the time for arbitrary reasons. And then they want to see, and some of the worst cases are ones where, they just deny everything and then wait to get sued. But a lot of them will deny things and see if somebody refiles the claim. But what they think is if they deny enough of them, a lot of people will just give up because they don't want the headache. And then the people that do sue, well, you know what? We will settle those claims because it's still less than if we just approved the claims of the shit you're paying for.
And you're asking that question after we've had what, as far as a record of NCAA versus the others cases? They're 0-100, or no, excuse me, they're like 2-72 in the last 5 years.
They've won a couple of these eligibility cases, but only just because that case was just ridiculous.
But while those are important, and I'm obviously very interested in talking about Owen Heineke and Chandler Morris and Trinidad Chambliss and all these guys who have been in the headlines for these eligibility reasons. I mean, that's a sliver. That's like one slice out of the entire pie. There's also all of the other aspects that I just ran down, a bunch of them, and not on a single category is the NCAA budging off of what they've always done. Not a single one. They're doing the bare minimum health coverage, bare minimum scholarship guarantees, bare minimum, like they don't learn, because I don't think at this point it's about learning, or has it ever been about that. It's about maintaining the status quo and basically trying to run out the clock until you get the right circumstances that could somehow throw you this Hail Mary of Hail Marys, where the president or somebody just issues somehow or another this golden parachute. But I don't think that exists.
No.
But they can't be convinced otherwise. And so if they can drag this out from 2025 to 2030, and in the next 5 years, everything's business as usual outside of a few losses in court cases, but in 2030, they're still in control, they're still in charge, they're still negotiating their TV deals, that's all they care about. Like, they just want to maintain what it's always been, and they will try to market that as, well, this is college sports the way you grew up. No, we're talking about wanting to see like teams that are in the same states play each other on a regular basis, not be in conferences across the country playing, like a team from Texas is playing a team in Connecticut, but they're not playing the team 2 hours away. It makes no damn sense. Like, that's what college sports fans are talking about when they talk about tradition. We're talking about losing rivalries. We're talking about conferences that don't make sense. We're talking about the one thing we can't agree on is just the transfer silliness. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. When we're talking about a guy fighting for a 7th year to go to his 5th school potentially. I mean, that's just stupid. I don't think that's good for the player. I don't think that's good for the schools. I don't think that's good for the sport. So there's some common ground there, but for the most part, I mean, I just laid this out. There's not a single thing they're trying to go, you know what? Yeah, we are going to give. No, they're trying to keep everything as is for as long as they possibly can. And that's why someone like Amanda, who's got to actually be on Capitol Hill covering this, she sees this political theater. I'm like, great, it's a bunch of important people and some others. But what did they actually accomplish? Nothing. Like, nothing in the long run. There's more committees. And guess what? The new committee will probably recommend a couple more committees, and then we'll have all these committees that ultimately don't get to the root of the actual issue because the people involved don't want to actually get to that root or correct that and take that root out of the ground and replant something else because it wouldn't be as beneficial.
You know what lobby kills it is the committee lobby. If you lobby for more committees, you're gonna do well every time because that's their answer to everything. I mean, President Trump just announced 5-6 new ones. And again, if you don't have people talking about this in earnest and really wanting to fish the issues, then you don't. And then some of the people on them, I mean, no offense to Bryson DeChambeau, I think it's pretty cool that he is involved in some of the things, but is Bryson DeChambeau going to help fix college sports? What does he have to do with it? It's just so those are just weird, like people who are going to have an opinion once in a while and show up on these things and go. So yeah, I think that you just have to deal with the reality of things, but we don't do that as human beings. We don't want our reality. We want,
well, maybe Bryson DeChambeau does have good ideas if he actually says anything.
I think
he's a brilliant businessman.
I think he could give them some pointers on how to be super successful on YouTube. I think YouTube golf could be a new sport that gets introduced or something. But yeah, I've been paying closer attention to it, which for longtime viewers of the show might be kind of startling because I absolutely utterly hate the legal side of things. Like, as much as we were getting inundated with it, especially like a year ago, where it was just non-stop all the time. And I know exactly how Amanda feels. And I feel that way just from sitting in a studio talking about it, much less having to actually travel to Washington, D.C. or sit in the Capitol and listen to these people drone on and on about this and just spin their wheels in circles over and over and over again. So I can somewhat sympathize with her, but I do think that something's got to give. Like, something has to give one way or the other pretty soon. We can't 10 years from now be sitting here and going, well, Cody Campbell's like 60 now, and here's his new idea, but we're still under the old system. And like, no, that old system's not going to keep standing on its own for much longer. Like, something is going to have to give. And we all know, we see the signs of kind of separations here and there. And you can tell there's definitely some maneuvering going on behind the scenes to some degree, of which one day Brent Zorneman from the College Station paper will blow the top off that like he did Texas and Oklahoma, or some other, maybe Amanda will blow the top off of the power leagues are breaking away and doing their own thing. There's sure as hell a lot of signs that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But that's not going to solve all these problems. And they've had these out there, and I think it's just going to take a change in leadership over time, or it's going to change. It's going to need a really big rude awakening.
They just had change in leadership. Didn't work. Hasn't seemed to help, has it?
Well, I mean, we'll see. We got the same person in charge for another couple of years at least, as far as the top of the food chain goes with the president. I don't know how much he can do, but the Republicans are in charge more so now. The Democrats were previously.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. None of them have been able to get this.
What I'm saying is that at some point, somebody or some group of people comes along that is able to like unravel this to a degree that no one else has been able to do so far. But that's going to take concessions on some sides, because the way things are lined up here, like, no, those two sides are not going to agree on the same thing. I just read that outline very loosely. There is not a single thing basically they agree on of these SAFE Act and SCORE Act. The only thing that might be debatable is the employee status, and that's only because the the SAFE Act, I think, is just non-committal on that at this point. but everything else they're pretty much on opposite sides of.
Well,
or
they can't agree on anything. You're right.
No.
Right now, it doesn't matter if even somebody had a pretty good idea. They're not going to agree on it just because they're both being stubborn, both sides of the aisle.
So here's the size. I want to just mention this. If you are big school NCAA fans, then you want the Score Act. If you are a fan of like Gonzaga or mid-majors, or you're a fan of the athlete, then you want the SAFE Act. That's the Cody Campbell Act. That's what you would like, but that's the difference there.
All right. Good stuff, man. You guys, I could just sit here and listen to you talk about it forever and ever. Everybody has an opinion on it. And nothing's changed in the last 20 minutes despite our conversation. But it's great that Amanda admitted that she doesn't want to cover that anymore. That's her job, and she will, of how just frustrated she is. And she's pretty sharp, really sharp. So UCF today, the last school among the Big 12 to start football spring practices. They started today. They'll have the spring game in May. Everybody has either started, or some of them have closed it out, and some of them in the middle of it. And UCF has joined the party. And here's one bad note, though. Brandon Helwig had this note, who covers UCF, their quarterback who transferred. Let's see, I got it right here. Alonzo Barnett from, was it Coastal Carolina?
James Madison.
James Madison was held out of the first day of practice. Scott Frost said it was precautionary. They hope he's available for limited work as the spring progresses. We're just going to take it slow with him.
I really am not too concerned about that. The first day of spring practice. I mean, that's not a big deal at all, unless there's rumor mill stuff that there's more to it that's floating around Orlando. I haven't seen that. So until I see something like that, I'm not going to be really concerned whatsoever about their big high profile quarterback addition this offseason. I think, yeah, that's the guy you would take it slow with if you're going to take it slow with anybody. But yeah, Barnett's a really good pickup for them. I don't quite know yet, and I'm going to have to decide soon because I'll be doing kind of a preview thing, but I don't know yet what to think about where I'm placing UCF other than somewhere near the middle. But which direction do they go beyond that?
The middle is 8 teams, right?
I know that, but it's also March, so I have time to think about this. So I'm very much just needing to flesh out their roster and just some of their stuff a little bit more to really get a good feeling for UCF. But I do think Barnett was an excellent pickup. Now, they do lose a guy, and you've probably seen him if you follow the draft. I mean, for example, they lose some talented guys like Malachi Lawrence, who's like getting all sorts of pub as a top, not first rounder, but like a day 2 pick type of a guy. So I think that one thing, even with a Texas Tech coming in and getting one of their guys, and they got hit a little bit by the portal, they still maintained a pretty damn good D-line, and all things considered. And he was one of the big reasons why, if not the biggest reason why. So, yeah, they'll lose guys like that, but I think they definitely upgraded at quarterback. And I need to look at the rest of the roster to really, again, have a great idea. But I'm intrigued by them. I'm intrigued by Scott Frost in year 2 and what that looks like. And for them, it's been kind of all over the place as far as success in football. So they're an interesting team to me that I don't quite have the pulse of just yet.
All right. And I agree with you. There's probably 6 or 7 teams in the Big 12 that's like that. Here's a real quick note, and then we're going to have our guest come on. Zack Shoemaker will join us in just a second. The returning leading rushers for the Power 4 conference schools coming back. Ahmad Hardy, Missouri, had a huge year. Keywan Lacey. Hey, I know him. I knew Keywan Lacey yesterday. BYU's L.J. Martin, Antoine Raymond from Rutgers, Mark Fletcher, that's that banger from Miami. Boy, what a postseason he had. Jaden Ball, big kid from Florida. Raleek Brown from now Texas, not Arizona State. Nate Shepard, Duke. Cameron Dickey at Tech. Bo Jackson.
No relation,
at Ohio
by the
State,
way.
no relation. And then Deshaun Bishop at Tennessee. Those are the returning leading rushers in college football from 25 entering 2026.
I'm not saying that you can't be named Bo Jackson and be a running back, but like I was really hoping that it was like his kid or grandkid or something like that, and it wasn't. And so it just disappoints me as a Bo Jackson loyalist.
Well, I mean, he's living up to the name to
good.
what degree somebody can. Nobody can really touch the original, but he's pretty damn good and sure beats some scrub with the name Bo Jackson who's not getting any PT. I'm really curious about Ole Miss post Kiffin. I mean, I know the ship kept sailing and cruising on along after his departure, but following a full offseason, the full court changeover, where there's not the assistants still hanging around for the playoff run. Like everybody's flipped over now. So Ole Miss is going to be different, but to what degree? I said yesterday, I'm not putting them in the playoff right now, although I know they're a trendy pick in large part because they were there last year and large part because Lacey's back and Chambliss is now officially back. So it wouldn't shock me if they made it there. I'm just not buying it. I just don't think they replicate that, but they got a damn good backfield. That's for sure. LJ Martin's probably the preseason favorite for Big 12 Player of the Year, if it's not Brendan Sorsby or someone along those lines. But yeah, LJ Martin should have a hell of a year for BYU. And Cameron Dickey was really good last year. Bo Jackson was awesome. So yeah, I mean, this is it's cool to look at. Raleigh Brown at Texas. So that's a good pickup for them. Texas, I saw Sark's comments yesterday about how this is the most talented they've been. And I know there's a lot of eye rolling because just to hear Texas talk about talent or a lack thereof. And even in his case, he wasn't talking about a lack of it, just that they have more of it now. And it's like, so you're not really complaining, but you're kind of complaining that you only had so much talent compared to everybody. But now you've got really, really, really good talent compared to everybody. So they'll be a fascinating team to watch this year with Arch leading the charge, and then all of the additions they've made between Raleigh Brown and
the other running
Cam
back,
Coleman
and who was the running back from NC State that they
Hollywood Smothers.
Smothers.
Yep.
And, they're going to be salty.
Yeah, he was talking about as much as like you said, not the front line, but the guys behind him also. You don't miss much of a beat. All right, when we come back, Zack Shoemaker started watching some of his Twitter comments during the NCAA men's tournament, looking forward to what he has to say about the upcoming Final Four and more. He is from the Shoes podcast. He will join us next, and this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza online at marcos.com. There's always some special on a one-topping or a three-topping sort of pizza, a pepperoni magnifico or all-meat pizza, which is my favorite, or wings or sandwiches, and even some sweets. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area. Bob Mock is the owner and the fastest growing pizza brand in America. If you're hungry, you need something, you haven't really thought about dinner, you get home, call them. You drop by, order online, and pick it up on the way back to wherever you live. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Carr Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. Get a 2023 Rogue Buick Enclave for $301 per month, or get a 2022 Chevy Silverado for only $446 per month, or a 2023 Volkswagen Jetta for $236 per month. All pre-owned cars and trucks on the lot are tagged with big anniversary savings. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Dr. Steve Childress and others in that Stonewood Dental business. That's where I go to get all of my dental work. Zack Shoemaker with the Shoes Show podcast. I started to see some of his comments throughout the Twitter feed and really liked him. Got a hold of him. He's on the show with us right now. Zack Shoemaker joins us on 365 Sports. Zack, thank you very much for your time. How would you describe what is the collision course of Arizona versus Michigan?
You know, when we talk about what's going to happen down at Indianapolis, I think that is the big game we're all looking for. You look at what Michigan's done with Dusty May and the way he's propelled this team to a Final Four for himself, obviously going back to the Final Four. And then Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, I think you talk about top to bottom, the depth. You have Toby Walker coming off the bench, a man who I think would start probably the majority of teams in the country. They've got depth upon depth at the big man position. Obviously, Michigan's very good as well. When you talk about this Final Four, I mean, this is the big game overall. I think this is the game that most people are most excited for. 2 number 1 overall seeds, 2 teams that are just dominant. I mean, this is the game I think most people should have circled on the calendar. And I mean, I'm still not sure exactly who's going to win that game. If I were to make my prediction, I would lean Arizona at the moment. But I mean, I think this is the biggest one to look forward to.
I think Michigan is the only team that's close to as deep as Arizona is compared to the other teams in it. And of course, they don't have to worry about that until Monday, should they get there.
Right.
What is it about this team because it's different. Most of Arizona's guys are, especially the freshmen, those are guys that were recruited straight up and down out of high school. Mm-hmm. Michigan's team, because Dusty May came from FSU, is mostly transfers. Right. What is it about it that made it work so well for Dusty May so quickly at Michigan?
I think what we're learning, especially in this era of college basketball, is it's really going to show who the best coaches are. I think a lot of people will say, how much talent can you bring into a roster, NIL, all those different aspects. But we're witnessing, I think this March Madness tournament proved it, the best coaches are the ones that can get the job done. And it's about getting the right team, the right talent around who you are as a coach. Now, coaches have to adapt, obviously, injuries, who you actually can land in the portal, who you land as recruits. But as you said, Tommy Lloyd, he goes in, lands guys like Koa Pete, Burries, those different guys, has his fair share of transfers as well. Jaden Bradley came over a couple years ago too. But from Michigan, you're compiling, as you mentioned, so many different guys from different backgrounds, universities, programs, different points of their college careers. I think we're just really seeing that from Michigan. It's Dusty May saying, you know what? I have a culture that I built right here. I think this culture is one of the best cultures in college basketball currently, and he just knows how to get the guys to all buy in. And so that's why, like I said, you look at all these rosters, even going to the other side of the bracket, you know, you have UConn, Dan Hurley, you obviously have Brad Underwood and what they've done at Illinois. We're seeing so many universities have to say, okay, who are the best coaches that can get the most out of the talent? And whether that is you prefer transfer guys, that is a mixture of guys, even bringing a lot of young guys, it's just truly showing who the best coaches are that can build the best rosters right now.
So one of the notes that I saw on your feed was Wagler, the star from Illinois. What was the deal? You said something that Bill Self doesn't miss many, but he missed on Keaton Wagler.
Right. So I think when you talk about this, and obviously I don't mean any disrespect to Bill Self. He is remarkable, one of the greatest coaches to ever do it. But you look at Keaton Wagler. This is a man who, yes, I believe 24/7 Sports had him ranked right around 150, if I'm not mistaken. They don't quote me on that specifically. But on ESPN, he was unranked, but he still won Max Preps Player of the Year in the state of Kansas. Obviously was well known in Kansas, the number one recruit coming out of the state of Kansas. Now, obviously, Bill Self, you have the big transfers. You have Darren Peterson, still a remarkable class. But this is a homegrown talent. And you look back on history, they've landed a lot of those home route guys, even going to Christian Brown. Obviously, he's coming from the state of Kansas. You go to Mitch Lightfoot, he lived in Arizona but had Kansas roots. Like, a lot of these guys that from Kansas, they typically land. He doesn't miss a lot of them. He was in the backyard. He was from the state of Kansas, and obviously they did not recruit him. Now, a lot of universities didn't obviously recruit him, but for Kansas, they missed on him, and he goes on to Illinois, becomes the remarkable star that's leading this team to the Final Four now. I just think that was a miss that you look back in hindsight. I'm sure Bill Self and the staff probably wish they would have went and recruited him. Same could be said about Kansas State and Jerome Tang at that point in time as well, though.
Zack Shoemaker with us on 365 Sports.
Brad Underwood has gone to Europe. Do you think that starts? He's not the only one,
right?
But he's done it faster and better than everybody else has. Do you think that wave continues and coaches that have been reticent to go will now be getting on some planes?
100% agree. And I think the big thing that we're learning right now is who knows the international games. What I think is going to be critical, and we'll see what happens in this recruiting cycle and this, offseason of coaches, like coaching cycle, I should say, is what coaches can actually maneuver the European routes. Because if you're not familiar with the European routes, they have different divisions. They do things completely different than we do stateside out here for the basketball scene in terms of development. They obviously don't have AAU basketball. They do things completely different. How do you know who the best talents actually are? How do you know how to evaluate European talents in terms of which guys will actually, work out in the college scene? And we're seeing that. Universities, obviously Illinois is the best at it right now. Arizona has a remarkable amount of guys. Obviously Gonzaga has brought in some guys throughout their careers, and there's many others to list as well. But we've also seen a lot of guys not pan out that they got from Europe. And so the big thing will be having a coach on your staff that knows the European ties and routes. Brad Underwood, as you mentioned, he's had that on the staff before, and he continues to. Can you make sure you can identify those type of guys on staff? Because right now, college basketball, in my opinion, is very close to the professional ranks in terms of you can get anybody. We're seeing G Leaguers come back into college basketball, Europeans. It's about building the best roster, and therefore you want as large a pool of talent as possible to possibly bring onto your roster.
Mark Few. This is away from the tournament, then it's not. He got knocked out early, has not won a national title, knocking on the door, and today got word that he's going to go inside he's going to be a part of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I know he'd rather be in the tournament, but again, maybe not. We're talking Hall of Fame, right?
Right. Yeah, I think for Mark Few, I mean, you're never going to turn down a chance in the Hall of Fame. That's obviously the pinnacle for coaches for the most part, and I think it's well-deserved. I know people will talk about the tournament flaws. I haven't mentioned that, obviously. He should win a national championship. When we talk about him, I think most people have a spotlight on Mark Few as being, one of those top-tier guys of this era of college basketball. Him, Kelvin Sampson, both don't have that championship ring yet, and I think that is something that goes against the name. They should win that championship at some point in time, but what he has accomplished in terms of his regular season, getting guys to the NBA, even the postseason runs he has had, what he's done in just taking a mid-major program and turning them into one of the premier programs in all of college basketball, that is a Hall of Fame resume. I don't think there should be any dispute about that. He deserves to be in there. And I know Kelvin Sampson did not get in this year. I would love to see him get in there, hopefully next year or at least at some point.
Who is your favorite for the North Carolina job?
This is an interesting one. My personal take for a long time has been, I don't know if the Blue Bloods can go out there and still land the big coaches. We're seeing how much money basketball brings in, and schools like Alabama have deep pockets. Can they keep a Nate Oates? Can they keep these different types of guys? It's interesting. If I were to say somebody right now, I think they're going to go all in for Billy Donovan. That's what I know reports have said. Now, the big issue there is this season does not end until April 12th, I believe. So it would be a little bit of an issue in terms of the recruiting, the transfer portal, those things. I think that's where you go from there. If you cannot land a Billy Donovan or that top tier of a Nate Oates, a Tommy Lloyd, which I do think Tommy Lloyd might be the second best option for them, then you might have to look at guys. Ben McCollum, in my opinion, would be a massive hire. I know he might not be the most popular name in the world. I know he might not be the guy that has all this fame or whatever, but that man knows how to coach. taking Iowa as deep as they went in year one, what he did at Drake, what he did at the other divisions is remarkable. So, I mean, if you have to go to Ben McCollum, I think that's a remarkable hire, and I think that actually a home run hire. So that's where I think they might end up going to. But hey, if you're North Carolina, you're MJ, you're calling Billy Donovan, trying to bring him over. You're going to call Tommy Lloyd. You're going to go call the Nate Oateses. You're going to go after all those guys, and we'll see if they can pull it off. But if not, I mean, I think Ben McCollum's a guy you really should zero in on if you're North Carolina.
Other than the names we brought up, Arizona's got those 3 freshmen that are fantastic. They play like they're 22, 23. And again, that collision course with Michigan.
Right.
We've mentioned Illinois, some of their stars. And is there somebody that's not, in your opinion, a star name that might be overlooked? I know that's kind of like there could be 5 or 6 of them, but anyone in particular that you see that might be overlooked?
I'd say the biggest thing that comes to my mind is Terrace Reed Jr. Now, I know some people are starting to learn his name more and more so, but we talk about what he did just in this last game. Obviously, the remarkable Brandon Mullen shot that he hit for the game winner, that's going to be the headline, one of the greatest moments of college basketball history. But let's go to the stat sheet, because that game is 40 minutes long. Terrace Reed led UConn in every single statistic: points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in that game. They don't go to the Final Four if it's not for Terrace Reed. We go back to the historic 30 and 25 plus game he had in the first round of the tournament. You go through this entire tournament, what Terrace Reed Jr. has done for UConn is remarkable, and they're not in the Final Four. I don't know if they're even in the Elite Eight if it's not for Terrace Reed Jr. What he has done is remarkable. I know he's obviously a starting player. He's had a remarkable season, but I just don't think he's getting the same spotlight that we're seeing from a lot of other big-name players that are leading the teams in this NCAA tournament right now.
Okay, I'm going to give you my top 5 in the NBA draft, and you tell me if I get them in the right order.
Okay.
I'm going to say Darren Peterson, number 1, DeBanza, number 2, Acuff, number 3,
okay,
Boozer, number 4, and Keaton Wagler, number 5.
You know, I like that. And I think I really, at this point in time, I would say we know the top 2 is going to be Peterson, AJ. I will say this. I think if Utah Jazz land the number 1 pick, they're taking AJ. The deep ties between Ryan Smith, who owns the Utah Jazz, him obviously being the big funder for BYU, also owning Utah Prep, which is where AJ played at, that's where he's going to likely go. So let's just make that very clear. I think he will be a Utah Jazz at the start of this next NBA season. In terms of the big board, in terms of talent, I think you're talking Darren Peterson's the most God-gifted scoring ability. AJ, obviously, he doesn't have a lot of flaws in regards to, question marks. I think we know he's going to translate quite well. For Darren, we saw a lot of issues throughout the year, ups and downs, those things. If I were saying pure talent, I would agree with Darren right there as number 1. I think Acuff, obviously, there's defensive liabilities there. Offensively, he is remarkable. I would not mind taking him at 3. But my point I'm really trying to make is you look at all these different guys in this draft. We're talking about one of the most deep drafts that we have seen in quite some time. Obviously, there's some great draft classes. So I think what we're going to look at is teams will have the luxury this year of picking based upon what they need, as well as obviously still the best talent available. So if you're a team that you have a great forward or big, whatever it is, you could very likely go for a guy like Darren or AJ or Acuff even. I think it really comes down to fit in this year's draft because, Caleb Wilson's great talent as well. We're going to see a lot of teams just really zero in on what do they need because there's just so many all-star type talents possibly that if you develop correctly could become franchise cornerstones.
All right, Zach, tell everybody where they can find you, or is it a specific time? I know you do the podcast, and a lot of it is boxing. And,
right.
And not a lot that are a part of that, so that's pretty cool.
Right, yeah. So I traditionally grew up in the basketball world. That's where I started off, and I still do cover basketball. But yes, I also have a basketball and boxing show. I also have a faith-based show as well. And so all this stuff can be found on my YouTube channel. It is the sports stuff. It's the shoes show. That will be for the sports stuff. But if you go to my Instagram page, Zack Shoemaker, that will give you access to all my different YouTube channels, all my shows. As for the sports show, I do it pretty much weekly, about 2 or 3 times a week. I don't necessarily have set dates. It really depends on events going on, but I also do sit-down interviews. Those typically will release on Tuesday and Friday. So those will get sit-down interviews with basketball and boxing players. But if you head over to my Instagram, my X page, Facebook, they're all just TikTok. They're all Zack Shoemaker. You can go find all my content on those pages.
Hey, man, I'm so glad I saw your feed. Great to have you on the show, and I'll make sure that we don't forget about you next time we need to talk some hoops, or even if something's coming up this big in boxing. We don't get into that much, but I know you do. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck moving forward.
I appreciate that. I'm always down to hop on the show. Appreciate you all for having me on the show today.
Zack Shoemaker with us, the Shoes Show, the podcast with us on 365 Sports. What do you think? And then Craig's Off the Radar is the big topic right now within the chat room.
Oh, I couldn't even begin to talk.
It's food related. It's about Long John Silver's and the Crumblies.
Oh, those people have problems.
Oh, what?
I can't do it.
We like Long John Silver's on this side of the table.
Are you dead serious?
Yeah, I don't. No, it's
the
not my
Crumblies? Oh my God! I would.
Paul's kind of a food snob.
Yeah. No, I don't think you are.
Paul just should have said yes.
No, look, there's a lot of I'll eat Taco Bell like it's going out of style. Like,
I brought some in yesterday.
Yeah, there's just certain things I just don't like, and I don't pretend like I'm gonna like them. But I
did you ever have the fish and the chicken planks at Long John Silver's?
I used to eat Long John Silver's at a time in my life when it was. I was more of a devout Catholic, and it was Friday during Lent, and I needed affordable seafood options. A lot of those things have changed in my life, and I have a 3 hours from the ocean or it's flown in policy, or 90 miles from the ocean or it's flown in. If it's more than 3 hours from the ocean, then I really don't enjoy that fish because it doesn't taste fresh. Because you grew up on the
Long John's is only 15 minutes from here.
But it's a long damn way from the ocean. Ours is, at least.
Yeah, that's the big message board going on in the chat room today was the Long John Silver's Crumblies, and most people agree that they liked them too. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar, Hall of Famer John McClain at 5, and this is 365 Sports. North Star Funding Partners, they got a thing called the new IRA. Have you heard much about it? We have a couple of commercials running right now that if you haven't, they have something available for you. The new IRA is a small case premium finance platform designed to look, feel, and function like a retirement plan, but without the IRS contribution caps. North Star Funding Partners has been a premium finance space for over 25 years with more than $1 billion in loan values. It's not experimental. This is about experience. Platform exists because of experience and not theory. North Star Funding Partners, approved carriers you already know and trust. If you are interested, contact them at northstarfundingpartners.com. Have you heard of the new IRA Insured Retirement Advantage? The Insured Retirement Advantage is a solution for younger, high-income clients and small business owners who want to save money for retirement, and is a strategy designed to provide the opportunity for guaranteed tax-free retirement income, legacy protection, and capital efficiency, all without needing ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
At Allen Samuels Dodge in Waco, we're making a declaration of deals. And these deals are so big, even fans of the Dallas Cowboys think this might finally be the year. Drive home a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $32,990, or a new Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for $29,990. Take $11,000 off a new Jeep Gladiator Sport, or choose 0% for 60 months. Or we pay your sales tax. Right now, no payments for 90 days. Happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
And welcome back into the show here on 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar, and got a few things going on that's is of interest this afternoon, including a story we'll start off with coming out of the Big 12 earlier today. In regards to the possibility of a new sport. According to Ben Portnoy of the Sports Business Journal, the Big 12 is taking steps towards becoming the first FBS conference to sponsor women's flag football starting in 2028 with a minimum of 6 teams. According to Chief Football and Competition Officer Scott Draper, along with Brett Yormark, the efforts are in the exploratory phase, along with an intimate assist, it says, from the NFL. Draper told SBJ, "We're trying to meet the moment. Our goal here is growth. Our goal is to advance Big 12 membership opportunities and growth for the conference. We see this as an opportunity to do that." The Big 12 and NFL had announced a partnership back in September that would include collaborations around technology, officiating, and flag football. I don't remember that.
I don't either.
I don't remember that at all. Maybe it was something else, part of that story that just pulled me away from realizing there was a bunch of other stuff that was in that story about flag football and whatnot. But yeah, I don't remember that, but apparently there was a partnership announced in December. The NFL's getting into the flag football game. The Fanatics big flag football all-star game a couple weeks ago brought a lot of attention. The Olympics, of course, as well, is getting involved in flag football. So, yeah, the Big 12 is in partnership with the NFL to some degree, going to be moving forward with plans to try and launch flag football with a minimum of 6 teams by 2028. So one more quote from Draper said, "We think this is a natural extension of what we're currently doing to grow in the Big 12. Then the partnership with the NFL comes into play. It's well documented what they're doing around flag. It really helps with their help and focus on flag. With our focus, we'll be able to really accelerate the growth of the sport, not only at the collegiate level, but at the high school level." And I immediately thought of Iowa State and Jamie Pollard, who said, "Well, we're canceling women's gymnastics, but we need another women's sport."
Yep.
Well, maybe flag football will be that women's sport that eventually replaces gymnastics at Iowa State. But maybe it's just a new sport at a lot of different schools. But there you go. The Big 12 and NFL working together to get deeper into flag football.
Well, and there's a flag football league that's been launched, or it's being launched now with Tom Brady's involvement and others. So it's gaining in popularity, and it's a high school level sport in a lot of states now. Florida, it's a high school sport in several others. So yeah, bring it on. I'm all for it. Flag football's fun.
Some of the most viewed videos on YouTube are the flag football. Is it lingerie league or something like that?
Well, I'd say that's a little bit different, given that I don't think everybody's watching for the actual competition.
Oh, absolutely they are.
Okay. Anyways, so what other point were you trying to make there?
Like Playboy, you read it, right? You see a lot of steam. Like RG3 posted the other day about that USA team, Olympics, the possibility that that's going to happen. It is picking up steam.
It absolutely is. And you had the Fanatics event the other day, which I'm not the biggest fan of Fanatics unless they want to sponsor this show, but I feel like the quality of uniforms are going down. I feel like the ability to pick and have options is going down because Fanatics just kind of rules everything merchandise related now to pro sports, WWE, everything in between. But they did help put together that flag football game that got a lot of attention. And I saw quite a few comments from people who I guess, have kids who are like, oh, no, my kid's got a flag football league, or even adults that say they play flag football, like co-ed leagues or semi-pro leagues. And so there's a lot of people that actually I saw responding to this story across various platforms that seem to think that, no, yeah, there's definitely something to it. We're going to have the Olympics getting involved, obviously. That'll bring far, far more attention when they have the games in 2028 in Los Angeles. So I think, like I said, if you want to balance out Title IX, if that still even matters at this point, I don't know that it does, but if you're in Iowa State and you need a women's sports team, not a bad idea to have flag football as the option to pivot to. And I think for a lot of the schools in the South, like, I know this isn't football, but as far as a spring sport that's just a little bit different, kind of like beach volleyball, then I think this could definitely catch on and become something.
And I think it gives high school athletes, a kind of another chance to find something that could get them a college scholarship, because sometimes maybe you're not. Here's the cool thing about flag football. In certain sports, well, we want you to be this tall, or we want you to be this, or you can kind of be limited, but you can be a good athlete. If you're a good athlete in flag football, if you can boogie a little bit, if you're agile and can run, it doesn't matter how big you are.
Elusive with speed, hands.
So all those things. So it's a sport that's really wide open, and I say this as someone who passionately competed in and refereed it in college. Was I good at it? No, but I was passionate.
You were passionately playing flag football.
Yeah, I was passionate about it.
Good way to put it.
Yeah. So to be clear, this is women's flag football.
Oh, you can't do it, Craig.
But I think that it would possibly get popular enough that maybe you'd go have a men's team, or at least a co-ed team or something like that. So that was from Sports Business Journal. Obviously, I think it's significant that the NFL is working in conjunction with the Big 12. I do not recall that announcement at all. I mean, do you guys remember anything about that?
I went and looked it up, and all I remember hearing was the Big 12 and the NFL had a partnership that was, like kind of more marketing and technology based.
Yeah. So, well, it's a little bit deeper than maybe we realized at first. And so it is something that they are working together on, and we'll see how that continues to blossom. And women's and men's flag football will be a part of the 2028 Olympics in LA. So they look at this as a big avenue for growth. And you can see why the NFL would also want to get involved, because they've made it very clear they've already tapped out the Americans and taken all the money they can take from us. So now what they're doing is they're going to have games on every night of the week, basically. But there's a reason why there's more international games. They're growing it. Yes, they want to grow the sport. They want to feed their own system and make it as healthy as possible, but they've also made as much money as they can over here. So now they need to go make it in Mexico and Brazil and Germany and everywhere else. And well, once we tap that out, then what do? Women's flag football. Here's a new avenue to go and make more money. So I think that's part of this driving factor for the NFL as well, to get women involved and have another offshoot of their regular base.
Stormy Cyclone, Iowa State fan. It's already a club sport at many schools, including UCF, Colorado, and Arizona State.
Well, there's half of the teams they would need. They said minimum of 8 teams, Stormy. So I feel like there's half your league right there. If they wanted to just, I guess, bump it up a notch and make it more official than co-ed leagues. But I would think that there's probably a lot of other teams out there. I would think there's probably a lot of schools that will be interested in this the more that it gets some play and some attention. So just found that really interesting, and definitely don't talk a lot of flag football on this show, although now we'll be talking at least more of it to see how this develops, and of course see how the Olympics go in 2028 as well. All right. Meanwhile, Dan Hurley spoke about his incident with the referee. So I just wanted to pass this along because we were talking about it earlier. So now he's come out and talked about it a little bit, and he said on the Triple Option podcast was that with you, Paul? No, it was with
you had a monitor.
Who is
today?
that? That's Urban, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Urban Meyer.
That's what makes it so much worse. So much worse.
And Mark Ingram, is that also?
Yeah, and Rob Stone.
Okay, yeah. So I think I've seen a little bit of that here and there, but I saw that he was on that podcast, and they obviously talked about that incident. And like I said earlier in the show, I don't even care at this point. Like, UConn won the game. It was one of the greatest March Madness moments. I thought it was a bizarre reaction, but as I explained earlier, I could see where just emotions get the best of you, and you're like freaking out, and you don't physically know how to even control yourself in that moment. But Hurley said that Ayers, the official, is an easy guy to work with. He said there's no animosity between the two of them during the game, or there was no animosity between the two of them during the game. He said, really, at that point in the game, we had it won, and he's such an easy guy to work with during the game that I thought he was coming over to chest bump me to celebrate the shot.
Yeah, I'm sure a referee was going to do that. Yeah.
He referred to Ayers as a cool-ass ref, which he better, because he could have teed your ass up and made you the most embarrassing coach in March Madness history, potentially. But he didn't. So, yeah, he's a cool-ass ref. It's not like that for me with him. My experience with him has been, we haven't won every game. I haven't agreed with every call, but in no way was that me and a ref that I had been at their throat the whole game. There were other points in the game where I had my arm around him walking out of a timeout. We were cracking jokes and laughing. And so then Hurley also went on to say that when Ayers came up to him, he was coming over to tell him how much time remained on the clock after the shot by Mullins. And he goes, he was just coming up to tell me there was 0.3 seconds. I think there's going to be 0.3 or 0.4 on the clock is what he was saying to me. And I was still so hyped from the shot going in. So that's Dan Hurley on the triple option explaining his side of things. And I think that's all. I think I acknowledge that as much could have been the case earlier in the show, like I said. So I could definitely see that explanation. I don't think that this dude was like in the pocket of UConn by any means.
No.
It's just a very puzzling moment, especially when you see it, because we don't see coaches doing that very often, or referees for that matter, if you want to blame Ayers for it more than Hurley. I don't care, but just thought it was interesting to get the comments from one of the parties involved, since the other is saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Like we didn't see that the other night, but whatever, it's over with, and UConn moved on. So there's Hurley's explanation for it.
No, that's good. I actually saved a link to listen to it when I got home. I'll be interested. You know, as much of a psycho as he can be, he's actually, at times, he makes me crack up. Maybe because I'm psycho too, but you know, some of those guys, they have a personality, they have a sense of humor. It's just at times they don't know how to control it.
Yeah, I think that was emotions bursting at the seams for both parties involved in that. So on to one more story, an update on Tiger Woods. He has entered a not guilty plea in his DUI case, according to the AP. He waived his arraignment, demanded a jury trial, according to the records from the court. He is being represented by Douglas Duncan, who, if that name sounds familiar, then you probably have been a pretty big Tiger Woods fan because it's his lawyer from back in 2017. So that's like a trivia tidbit for the hardcore Tiger fan. Who was Tiger's lawyer for his 2017 and his 2026 issues? Douglas Duncan. Ding. In a probable cause affidavit, it was revealed Woods told police he was looking at his phone and changing a radio station at the time of his wreck. The 15-time major winner, this is from Yahoo, was also found with 2 hydrocodone pills in his left pant pocket, per the affidavit. So then it gets into the actual collision. He collided with a slower-moving pickup truck trailer, rolled his car onto its driver's sides. He climbed out the passenger, told police he didn't realize the truck had slowed down. No injuries. He was charged with DUI, property damage, refusal to submit to a lawful test, and had shown several signs of impairment, which required them to request a DUI investigation. So that was all in the affidavit. They observed that he was sweating profusely. He was moving lethargic and slow. And when he was asked if he would submit a field sobriety test, and he agreed, the officer said that while walking, I observed Woods limping and stumbling to the right, but then he went on to tell her, I've had over 7 back surgeries and 20 operations on this leg, to explain that away. So he was told to sit down for the remainder of the investigation. And when he removed his sunglasses, after being asked to remove his sunglasses, the officer observed eyes to be bloodshot and glassy, pupils to be extremely dilated. He denied having any alcohol. And when asked if he took prescription medication, said, I take a few. I took prescription medication earlier in the morning. So he did field sobriety, and she said, based on that, I believe his normal faculties were impaired and he was unable to safely operate a motor vehicle.
Well, if you have 2 loose hydrocodones in your pocket, that's not a good start.
Well, that's when they went on, and that's when they discovered the 2 pills revealed to be hydrocodone in his left pant pocket. So that's how that.
Yeah, that's not good when you're hanging. I'm telling you, I hate painkillers. Maybe a master, like when I had surgery, a couple of surgeries, try to get them off as fast as I can. I never had one in my pocket. I had them in a jar, and you took them like every 4 hours when I had the shoulder surgery, and I couldn't wait to get off of them, but I never had one just like in my pocket.
No, I had a tooth pulled a few months ago, and I took them the first day just because, it hurts the first day and you want to be able to sleep. But as soon as I woke up the next day, it was gone. I mean, they're for extreme circumstances. And, there's so many athletes. Tiger's a statistic right now. He is not, none of this story is unique for Tiger Woods. There are thousands of guys, none as famous as him, maybe, because there's only maybe 3 athletes ever that is famous as Tiger Woods, but many other athletes that have gone through what he's gone through, that are going through what he's going through, and his legal battle is his legal battle, and whatever happens with that, what Tiger needs to admit to himself that most of us can tell is that he's got at least a little bit of a problem.
No, not a little bit.
And how big of that problem will be determined. I think it's a pretty big problem, and he needs to check himself in and get some help.
Not a little bit. Yeah. He's got a big problem. And as much as his body has been basically destroyed, I can see where painkillers or whatever, but you got to be smart enough to know you can't take them and drive. No,
you absolutely should not be taking pills and driving. That's a bad combination. And if you're going, I do it all the time, well, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
You have a problem. So there you go with the update on Tiger Woods and all that came out here today. And so he will, I guess, are we going to see him at the Masters coming up here soon?
He'll be at the Champions Dinner. He'll probably even do a press conference. He's not going to play. He almost took him an hour to over a 2-foot putt at an indoor TGA event and missed it. Tiger, don't just be at the opening ceremonies, whatever, and get the hell out of there and go fix yourself.
Yeah. And the only other thing I had was, as you can imagine, record March Madness ratings, but I told you guys I'm not really going to talk about the TV ratings as much anymore because they're all spiked. Every event is higher than it was a year or two ago, much less 10 years ago. So March Madness did have some pretty healthy numbers, and I actually did want to bog down, though, for 1 second on the UConn-Duke game because it did have that thrilling finish. Most watched NCAA tournament since 93 with 10.3 million viewers on average. Now, again, the ratings are all cooked up right now, but that's through the Elite Eight. But UConn-Duke, Elite Eight peaked with 18.9 million viewers for the conclusion, averaged a little over 13 million, which is also up 15%. Same thing I said a second ago about the numbers. But in general, I like looking at that total number just because it's interesting to me, especially for big games, like what kind of an audience there is out there for that. So at one point, 18.9 million. So you're looking at a pretty big time college football game that it was in line with. So there you go with that. And that's a few things off the radar.
All right. A lot of different things. And the ratings, again, they're all kind of bloated, like if you were on painkillers.
I'll mention them during football season again because I kind of like just seeing how those all get sorted out, even though it's the usual suspects. But I like seeing how big the numbers can get for certain matchups. But anybody that's going across man, look, every sport's up right now. Imagine it's all because of the rating system. So that's why it's just not as fun to talk about because it all is it's got a little shot in it that's boosting it a bit.
Yeah, it's different. So a lot of them would be broken. Let's go straight to John McClain, who's ready for us. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. Thank you very much, John, for your time. Your thoughts about the officials, referees in the NFL, and is this going to end up being like the replacement officials in the end?
I can't imagine it would be because there's so much more at stake in the NFL now. Talking about gambling, talking about, gamblers don't want to bet on the league and then have incompetent officials making the big decisions. So I think this is all for show by the NFL. I just saw the officials make $350,000. They want a 10.5% increase. The league's offering 6.5. I think I'd take it. I'd like to know where I sign up to be a replacement official.
Oh, look, I'm going to negotiate for them. I'll settle at 8, John. I'll settle at an 8% bump between that, and then that's probably where they wind up 7.5, 8, right? The 2 replay rules assisting officials getting approved today. What do you think about them? Do you think that it will help these referees once they do get back?
I think they ought to use it for all officials. They need to help them as much as they can. You want to get it right as much as you can. I think the Rich McKay, the chairman of the competition committee,
pointed out, they want to do these things, but they want to take them slow. Well, there's controversy every year. And as I've said a million times, I'm with Bill Belichick, who said everything should be challenged, but it wouldn't make the games longer because the coaches don't get any more challenges. But that way, you see egregious roughing the passer penalties, you could challenge it with 2 minutes left in the quarter, the game, whatever you want to do. But they do move slow, that's for sure.
John, I saw the Browns pulled their proposal, looking to try and get trades that you could trade your picks as much as 5 years out. So more of like the way the NBA goes. I don't know what your thoughts were on it, if you had many thoughts on it, but I'm glad that this is getting put down before it ever gets any real legs, because I just feel like, especially coming from Cleveland, this just has like, well, we've done everything else. What else can we put? Let's trade picks 5 years out to try to land the right guy. I didn't like this idea.
They just wanted more time to make bad deals.
Yeah.
Nobody's made any worse. They've rebuilt the Texans. And I'll tell you this, nobody was interested in that. The NBA is so convoluted, the way they do trades and picks and all that. I can't keep up with it. I think it's preposterous. I like the way the NFL does it. There was no chance, so that's why they withdrew it.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been watching the NBA draft or like reading the run up to it, and you're like, oh, when did the Rockets get that pick?
Yeah.
And you're like 8 years ago. And you're like, okay. It's so strange.
I mean, the draft night, they fixed that, right?
No, they didn't fix anything.
Like
about
John McClain drafted by the
No, that's still, they can't do that because of the CBA
league
and all
year.
that.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
They need to start the league year earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's what they need to do. John, what do you think happens with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia as we get closer to the draft? Is that a draft day or close to draft day trade like it was when he got traded to the Eagles?
Where there's smoke, there's fire, Paul. I think he'll get traded. I think he'll get traded to New England. Mike Vrabel was his first coach. He was great there. The former GM, John Robinson, when he made that deal against Vrabel's wishes, that was the beginning of the end for John Robinson as the general manager of the Titans. And so I think they're going to be reunited also because the Patriots need another receiver for Drake May, and there's no receiver in this draft that's supposed to be as good as A.J. Brown.
What's the expectation for Houston moving into this draft time period?
Well, a lot of people, Craig, seem to like, the Texans have solved their problems in the offensive line by signing right tackle Braden Smith from Indianapolis and left guard Wyatt Teller from Cleveland. Cleveland didn't try to re-sign Teller, Braden Smith. They didn't work real hard to bring him back in Indy. Teller will be 32, Smith will be 30. If they think they've solved their problems, they got big issues. They still need interior linemen. They need a new center, and they need to get younger. It's fine to have those guys for 1 year stopgap deals, but they did this last year, and they thought their left tackle Cam Robinson and their left guard Laken Tomlinson were good moves. They stunk it up. They were gone, not just gone from the team. Tomlinson was out of the league, and they shipped Robinson out after one start. And I think they will work hard to fortify their offensive line and defensive tackle early in the draft because they have one pick in the first round, 2 in the second, 1 in the third. I believe they will trade out of the first round for the second year in a row to pick up extra picks.
John, there's the stuff going on in Phoenix, the meetings that are going on in Phoenix. There was a time when you used to be at every one of them for decades, it seemed like. What is the big, what usually comes out of this specific type meeting?
A lot of BS, a lot of great food, a lot of great golf, a lot of great pictures, and a lot of great people hanging around the pool, if you get my drift. Mm-hmm. And if there's a replay, say there's instant replay, when they were considering it, it was a big story. Every year we want to know, are they going to approve instant replay like Tex Schramm and Don Shula, the co-chairs of the competition committee, want to get done? So people were on pins and needles. Then they did it originally on a trial basis, 2-year trial basis, and then they put it in permanently, and it's turned out to be one of the best moves made in the history of sports. And so if it's something big like that, even last year, the tush push was a huge controversy leading up to it. Roger Goodell did not want it. It passed by 1 or 2 votes. This year, it wasn't even discussed. So I'm not sure why that was, but it was really a boring meeting for everybody unless you were playing golf and going to great restaurants.
John, the Browns keep kind of throwing this out about Deshaun Watson having a shot to win the starting job. Am I supposed to believe that? Or are they trying to, fix the paint job of the car, but not the engine and sell it to me?
Jimmy Haslam, the owner, said that this week when he was interviewed, and their general manager, Andrew Berry, said they may get another quarterback. So they've got Shadur Sanders, they've got Dillon, they also have Watson, and then they might get another quarterback. Why not? Get 2 more. I don't think that Watson, if he plays and he gets hurt, it's going to cost them a fortune. They redid his contract to get his cap figure down from $80 million to $40 million. He's gone after this season. Again, imagine he's actually going to get a chance to play.
John, I saw the note that you retweeted Adam Schefter about Jermod McCoy, a really good cornerback who did not play last year from Tennessee and appears to be a guy that's going to be somewhere in that mid-first round. What are you hearing about him?
Well, he and the corner from Mansour Delane from LSU are the 2 best. If I'm taking one, I'm taking the LSU corner, because when McCoy hasn't played in so long, and yes, he ran a great 40, and yes, he's a great talent, but they're both close. And if you're a team like the Cowboys and they're hoping to get one, I guess, you don't want both of them to be gone. I don't think they will be, but I bet you the Cowboys end up with one of them.
Their history, but again, Paul, they would take McCoy.
They don't care, but the Cowboys do not care about injuries that happen in college, John. They don't care. It's as if they didn't happen. They're fine with redshirt years. They do not care, and I can't figure out why. It's not a bigger deal. This goes back 20 years.
Well, they've got their doctors that examine these guys, and they'll bring them in to Dallas if they haven't already, and they'll give them their own physicals after they did at the combine. And they're both good players. We all know the Cowboys need an edge rusher. It's a really good draft for an edge rusher, and they need a corner. And I'm guessing if the top edge rushers are gone and the corners are there, they'll do that and take a lesser edge rusher with their other pick. But either way, I think the Cowboys are going to come out of this draft looking really good. And then it becomes, do they coach them up? And how do they play them? See if they can get the defense even close to where the offense was last season.
John, the Final Four is this weekend, Championship Monday, the Masters the following weekend. Is there a sporting event that you have not yet attended that is on your bucket list?
No, I don't. Personally, I don't want to go to games anymore or places like everybody. Oh, my God, you got to go to the Masters. You got to go to Indy 500, Kentucky Derby. I've had invitations, but at this point in my life, my best seat's right in front of my big flat screen TV with the sound turned up really loud, and I feel like I'm right there. You know, you can go on anywhere online and get a drone trip over the Masters, and I understand it's Augusta, but man, you go to golf tournaments and I've been, you can't see squat. That's why I like being right there in front of the TV.
Yeah, I've been there.
David, if I was going to do one, I think I'd like to do a World Cup match in somewhere in Europe.
Oh, but they're going to be here pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't care about here. I'd rather see it over there where the fans are different. They don't gouge you for everything like you do here. It's illegal over there. It's illegal in the UK to scalp. You can't enhance tickets over there. If you do, you are in trouble. Can you imagine what would happen here if that law was enacted and nobody could scalp?
Half the population would be behind bars.
John, the Ticketmaster was just about to get hit with a big judgment, and the Department of Justice just let them settle and let them get off the hook. And so we're going to be back to square one on that. So
they are like they had a thing over in the UK. Excuse me, some American company working offshore trying to do it like that. They got them, they shut them down, and I don't know if they sent them home. But, you know, people are always going to try to circumvent the rules, but it's weird. over there. A friend of mine that worked at the Chronicle, he's a big soccer fan. He can go buy a ticket for face value. Doesn't have to worry at all about any kind of thing added on to it or anybody jacking up the price. It just amazes me they can do that and we can't.
Last question. What's the last positive thing that kind of got you feeling good about your alma mater, Baylor University?
Well, I'm hoping DJ Lagway will be the quarterback that everybody expects him to be, considering the offensive line they lost, the receivers they lost, how they just totally botched the last season when they were supposed to be so much better on the offense. Hopefully Lagway, those guys brought with him, will be good. And I'm still, even though the basketball team's playing at some 10th rate tournament, I'm still pulling for him and I'm still going to watch for him. But Lagway, you can't help but be fired up about him and the new defensive coordinator. I'm looking to see if he can do a better job than Aranda did last seseason.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Second Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, with us on Tuesdays, usually around 5 o'clock. We need to get him. We were told we need to get him a 365 sports cap. We get that. I'll send it to him. He can wear that when he's on with us on Tuesdays. All right. It's time for Paul Catalina and the top 5.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Of course, Flag and Anthem, the one and only Flag and Anthem. I've just said their name 3 times, about to say it a 4th. Go to flagandanthem.com, use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Top 5 March Madness legends. Let's roll into it. Number 5, Big Country, Bryant Reeves, Oklahoma State. He was just an absolute monster. Nobody had an answer for him. I was convinced Oklahoma State was going to win just because nobody could stop this big, gigantic, abominable snowman of a human being. He was just so big and nobody could do anything about him. Unfortunately, they didn't win it all, but one of the great seasons and great memories in Pokes history when it comes to basketball under Don Sutton. Number 4, this one I have to say a little quietly because this happened to Kansas. This was Northern Iowa. This was a buzzer beater that happened a little too early in the shot clock, and Kansas still didn't win. But Ali Faroukmanesh, who's now the coach at Colorado State, one of the most memorable buzzer beaters and biggest upsets in tournament history as Northern Iowa took down Kansas. And he will forever be remembered. But again, if my wife sees this, I'm sorry. I had to put him on this list. I'm sorry. Number 3, Kevin Pittsnoggle. Is there not a more West Virginia human being on earth than Kevin Pittsnoggle? Much like Big Country, difficult to deal with, plus a tall guy with range. Loved watching Kevin Pittsnoggle. They actually did a feature on him a couple weeks ago in the tournament about legends and remembering. He is a principal now. So imagine trying to mess with that guy. Not going to do it. Number 2, God Shamgod, possibly the greatest name in the history of basketball on any level, led Providence to the Elite Eight in 1997. And when the greatest names in sports come up, it's always God Shamgod. But it's not just the name. It was the performance that got Providence there to the Elite Eight, one of the true Cinderella stories. Now, that was as the Big East was kind of on the come up as one of the big basketball conferences, but loved God Shamgod. He played dozen years, mostly overseas, which I think, if you get the right countries, not a bad go of it. And number 1, UCLA's Tyus Edney, 1995, coast to coast for the layup and the win. They carried him off. UCLA, of course, has probably a better basketball history because of John Wooden than any other college basketball team that there is. And this was the last time that they won a title. Now, they've been close a couple other times, but this team had the O'Bannon brothers on it. Of course, Ed O'Bannon had historical impact on college athletics well after his playing career was over. Chobe Bailey was on that team, but Tyus Edney's layup at the buzzer, coast to coast, is what we'll always remember when it comes to March Madness, and a true March Madness moment for the UCLA Bruins. That's going to do it for a top 5. Let's spin the wheel. Okay. Here we go. When you go to the car, wash, do you get the cheapest or the most expensive option? Most of the time, I just go with the cheapest. But if once in a while, I'll have them do the whole deal.
I do the one that's usually the premium.
Yeah. Depends. It varies.
I don't go very often. I sometimes get into a stretch. I'll go a couple of times in 5 or 6 weeks in the spring or summer, but I usually get the premium. Craig?
I don't really go to like the old car washes where the guys are working on it so much as the automated now at this point.
Well, there's very few, though. There's only one in Waco.
Yeah,
now,
I used to work at one, a place like
you do
that.
it yourself?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's no more.
So when I'm at like the machine one, which is the only one I go to, I go like in the middle, surprise, but not the cheapest, but also not the give me 4 layers of wax on the end of this thing. I go somewhere like premium kind of, I guess, vibe, whatever that would be, the middle option there. That's what I would go with normally.
And you tip the guys when you're going, if it's one of those that, and they got a bunch of these in Waco now, do you tip somebody before you go into the shoot?
No, I would tip them if after, but
they don't. There's nobody afterwards. I
mean, like if I'm doing most of it myself, what am I tipping for?
The tip jar's now at the front. Well, they spray your front and all that stuff. I delivered pizzas when I was younger, and I always learned how to tip.
And look, I'm all for tipping. If I'm gonna vacuum and do all that other work, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
like I could do that other part too if you let me.
To spray the front?
Yeah. I mean, that
gets all the bugs off.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I usually go for it depends. It depends. But there's one by my house that's still a full service car wash.
Yep, right there on the corner.
But half the time I go there, there's only one guy.
Yeah.
So they're low on employees. So.
It's not an easy job, man.
No.
I did that for an entire summer, and it was very tiring. It was all day long in the Texas heat. Very little shade to sit under and just grinding,
quick and easy car wash,
and vacuuming and doing all that. So yeah, that was an interesting summer. It was fun making tips though.
Yeah. So no, I think most of the time now it's gone into private. Like if you want a full service car wash, you've got to pay twice as much as it used to cost because a guy's going to come to your house and do it.
Yeah, they have guys that do that. Come to the business.
I've done that a couple times. Once for me and Amanda, and it's fine. It's nice, but.
All right, let's go to the quizzes. Which Major League legend is famously and controversially credited with hitting a 643-foot home run at Detroit's Briggs Stadium, a distance many historians now consider a myth, and that would be Mickey Mantle?
Yeah, it's Mickey Mantle.
Sure, let's go Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. There we go.
Another one of those old trivias that it's in my head. All right. In September, could you open that up a little bit more, Rez? In September, Mickey Mantle allegedly cleared the right field roof in Detroit, with others have too, with a blast that measured 643 feet. I always thought it was like 570 feet. While it was cited as Guinness Book of Guinness as the longest ever, historians like Bill Jenkinson, I never heard of him, argue the distance was massive overestimation. Around 570-foot shot. Babe Ruth's shot remains the longest reliably measured home run. I'm going to not talk until you open up your eyes. In baseball history, 26 results. Not a lot of votes in that one, but Mickey Mantle, I knew that one quickly.
I think he was put his head in his hands because you said the Guinness Book of World Records.
Well,
he jumps around so much on this, like it just drives me absolutely insane.
It's a beer.
Man. It drives me absolutely insane.
It's a malt beer.
Okay, next trivia question, please. Which legendary coach holds the all-time record for the most men's Final Four appearances in NCAA history?
Wooden won 10 or whatever it was, but he didn't go to like the kind that a Dean Smith or Roy Williams or Coach K would have done. They've gone. Some of them, I think, have been to 15 plus.
The obvious answer here is John Wooden because he's won the most, but the tournament was so different
But they didn't.
But they had at least 4 teams.
But there were 16 teams back then.
Yeah, but they had at least 4, so there'd be a Final Four.
But he didn't go to the Final Four and not win it maybe once. So that would be 10 or 11.
This is a tough one. This is tricky.
Now I'm trying to outthink ourselves here,
I
but
know.
he didn't have runner-ups.
Well, there was at least 4 every single time. So what are we calling the Final Four? Are we calling the Final Four the modern Final Four, which
No.
you didn't start calling it?
They had it when there were 16 teams.
Yeah. Okay.
You had the semifinals and championship.
First name that came in my head was Coach K. I don't know why, but I just feel like he was so consistent, and I get the whole wooden 10 titles or whatever thing, but
No, I don't think
Coach
it's wooden.
K
I don't think it's wooden.
was in that bad boy seemingly every other year for like 25 years in a row. It felt like so that was my just the name that popped
let's
out.
go
to
with
me.
the
Let's
gut
go with
feeling.
Coach K.
All right. There you go, Craig. Very well. 13 times. Wooden had 10 championships and never other than that when he went to the Final Four.
12 appearances.
Man.
That's what it says in the
13 for Coach K. 42 years at Duke. I didn't even realize it was that long. I remember when Duke in the late 70s got beat up by a team out of Kentucky in the championship game. You wondered, they were always kind of the cute story. Now people hate them.
Okay, let's go to the polls. Which Final Four coach would you rather have a drink with? Oh,
I'd Brad Underwood.
Dan Hurley has way too many votes here. He would be. I mean,
I bet he'd be great if he would.
I don't think it would. I think you'd.
Well, that's your vote.
Yeah, no.
Everybody else said
I say
like Dan Hurley.
I said Brad Underwood from the beginning.
I agree with you on Brad Underwood, but all 3 of these other guys seem to be nice guys. Dan Hurley's not nice.
Well, I mean, some of our audience seems to think so. He wouldn't be my choice either. But I think Brad Underwood would probably be my choice, or Tommy Lloyd. Dusty May seems like a really nice guy. So yeah, I think Hurley would probably be my last choice, actually, just because I don't seem to react to him the way clearly a lot of the voters do, and I just don't think it'd be a personality fit with me. I think we'd probably not get along very well. So yeah, I'd have Tommy Lloyd or Brad Underwood as my top choice.
All right.
Next poll. Which Avengers movie is your absolute favorite? Smokey's not seen any of them.
You need one, Andrew, on these where it says not applicable.
We can only do 4. Endgame runs away with it, which is, I don't know, man. I really do like Infinity War. I'm going to say Endgame. That last scene in Endgame is pretty awesome. So I'll say that.
It'd be one of those final 2. Yeah, I get what you mean, that it's kind of hard to choose between those 2, but Endgame wraps everything up in a nice little bow to move forward to just garbage, basically the last 5 years here and there. I admittedly haven't seen a lot of it, and I don't feel like I've missed on anything whatsoever. So yeah, Endgame to me was the end of an era, so I would go with that. But Infinity War was awesome because it was quite shocking, and Endgame definitely uses some of like, how do we wrap this all up? What convenient thing can we just pull out of thin air to like make, time travel or, like it's just, I don't know. I know time travel is rife throughout comic books. We're seeing it in all the movies now, but it just felt like, what's the term for that? Where you come up with something just to fix.
It was a weird, it was a weird MacGuffin for one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they call it a MacGuffin.
But I overlooked that, and it was enjoyable. But it was kind of like, I don't know.
The only problem I had with the entire movie was the girl power scene, where like all the girl superheroes was like, let's get him.
You could tell that was very
it was
much
forced. It was very forced. It wasn't a natural thing in it. Now, Spider-Man: No Way Home was really, really good. That was after it, but after that, they've kind of stopped making great Marvel movies.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where maybe I get into it when they relaunch with Doctor Doom and all that, but I have not cared about any of it besides Spider-Man since Endgame, basically. Yeah. And I've watched some of them, and I haven't enjoyed a single one so far.
I would like to play a game with Smokey one day where we ask, is this an Avengers character or not?
Well, I'm looking at him right now because I knew Thor, right?
Yeah.
Iron Man?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the list. Scarlett Johansson was one of these. Black Widow.
Was Black Widow. Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's it. All the other ones I wouldn't. I didn't know Hawkeye. The Hulk. Okay.
Did you watch the Hulk back in the day with Bill Bixby?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Had green skin and everything. Yeah. I didn't know some of the other ones, but I didn't know Thor had an evil brother. But we just found that out.
Loki.
Okay. Thank you to our sponsors. Thanks to Rez. We appreciate also Garrett Ross and Andrew Valet. Thanks to you who watch us. Thank you for your time. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Back tomorrow at 3. Deion Thomas, former Illinois star, who does a radio broadcast, will join us tomorrow about the Fighting the Illini. And this is 365 Sports. Good night.